All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to the Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Starcade Media Studios with my guy, Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
Episode 270 is in full swing, full motion. I'm so happy to be here with you and for you to be here with us, whether you are live streaming, podcasting, or YouTubing. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this time as we have an awesome show for you guys, a June edition show. Trevor's a year older now since last week when we celebrated that, had a good time with that. Now we're moving forward deeper into the trenches. You know, OTAs are going, mandatory minicamps start this next week. So much is going on, guys, and so little time for us to discuss it because we know that you guys in the summertime like to enjoy your Saturdays doing other things, which is why we're so grateful for you to take the time to be with us right now, whether you are live streaming or you're watching this later on in the week. We want to thank you so much for being here with us, guys. I tell you at the top of every single show, I tell you at the bottom of every single show, if you've not already done it, we would love nothing more, guys, than if you would join us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, hit the Spoken Podcast, hit subscribe, hit share, hit like, hit all those things. We need those buttons pushed, guys. It would definitely help us out big time to get this bad boy to where we want it to be. But more than anything, we need you guys to get into the comments. We need you guys to get into the live chat because more than anything, we want to hear from you. We want to get your guys' takes, comments, questions, concerns, whatever you guys have for us today, because we have what we call the segment of Speak It, where we get you guys all your questions in. Trevor and I will answer them as authentically and honestly as we possibly can. But throughout the show, whenever you guys have a nice take here and there, we will be dropping that on the screen, and we react to it throughout the show. So trust me when I say it's interactive throughout. But if you have questions, a specific question, whether it's Chiefs related, NBA Finals related, MMA related, baseball related, whatever you guys have for us, drop it. And we'd love to hear from you guys, and that is something we're very much looking forward to. Like I said, we have a fun-filled show for you guys. We're going to be handing out L's at the end of the show. We got a lot going on today, but first and foremost, Trevor, how are you doing this week, man? How are things going for you?
Going good, man. Like you said, another year older, another trip around the sun, and, you know, had a week off from work this week, enjoyed a little staycation, spent some time with the kiddos, spent some time at the pool. Yeah, man, just enjoying some downtime. That's about it.
Good time to have downtime, man, because it's getting a little toasty outside, and if you want to hide away in your house like I do most of the time, usually when I go out in the summertime, it's to go back in somewhere else. Yeah. So that's the way I like to enjoy my summers, but that's just me. The Chiefs decided to bring back one player, and in a more serious fashion, bring back another player. I don't know if you guys have heard the news this week, but in case you did miss it, the Chiefs had a very serious scare on their hands on Thursday, right before practice was beginning to start at the facilities. We had gotten the news from Tom Pelissero, and we can put that up on the screen real quick, Trevor, if we can. According to Tom Pelissero, the Chiefs canceled all team activities today after a backup defensive lineman had a seizure in special teams meeting in their special teams meeting and went into cardiac arrest per sources. The team's medical staff worked quickly, an ambulance was called, and the player is currently in stable condition. We were left with that information, guys, for about 30, 40 minutes until Tom Pelissero had a follow-up update when we found out who the player was, and that's the second one there. Chiefs defensive lineman B.J. Thompson is in stable condition after suffering a seizure and going into cardiac arrest during a meeting this morning per source. A fifth-round pick in 2023 out of Stephen F. Austin, Thompson appeared in one game as a rookie for the Super Bowl champs. Later on this week, I believe it was the next day, actually, we heard from the Chiefs head Burkholder. He was giving us a whole synopsis here of what took place, the play-by-play, if you will, and we'll go ahead and put that on the screen as well. Burkholder was quoted as saying, quote, he had a seizure during the team meeting and then eventually went into cardiac arrest. Just as a side note here, the NFL mandates that we do these emergency action plans for every team in the league home, away, in your practice facilities, and then we are mandated to practice multiple times a year. Ironically, we practice Monday with a group called Walters Incorporated, who comes in and educates us and goes through scenarios like we went through yesterday. With BJ, when he had the seizure, but Harrison Butker immediately ran towards the training room and grabbed Julia Freimeyer and David Glover, and then grabbed me, and we went into the room eventually. Tiffany Morton and Evan Kraft came in as well as with the facility. As with this facility, we have a doctor's office down the hall, and Dr. J.P. Darsh from Kansas University. He came up and assisted, and as a team, we tried to stabilize BJ and put him on the floor while he was still seizing. Then he went into cardiac arrest. Our team of that group of people provided CPR for him. He had one AD shock and came back, so he was only in cardiac arrest for less than a minute and a half, if so. Our players, our security staff, everybody involved, coaches and staff, they were phenomenal in handling this crisis. We then turned him over to the Kansas City Fire Department, and those paramedics do those practice sessions with us, so there's some familiarity with those guys. And then he was taken to KU Hospital, where he was heavily sedated yesterday through the night, and then they brought him out of sedation this morning. He was on a ventilator overnight, so just so he could breathe because he was so heavily sedated. This is all out. He's alert. He's awake. He's coming through quite well. We don't have a diagnosis, and in medicine sometimes you don't have that. And then, like I said, he's awake and he's alert, and he's heading in the absolute right direction. So all things good in a little bit of a hairy situation, but I thank you for your attention, end quote. So first and foremost, this is just a really, really shitty situation, freak occurrence. We don't know what caused B.J. Thompson to go into the seizure and then ultimately go into cardiac arrest. We have no idea what could have caused it. There are a myriad of theories. There are a myriad of things that could be possible. Could be blood clot related, could be genetic related, could be stress related, could be maybe he ate something that he was allergic to, he didn't know he was allergic to. There's a lot of things that could be possible here, or could be none of those things. It could just, like I said, just be a freak occurrence. All we do know is, once again, the Chiefs medical staff just came and rose to the occasion. First and foremost, I do want to say hats off to Harrison Butker for jumping in, not waiting, just helping his teammate immediately, going and getting the guys, the medical team. I mean, people are trying to say, well, anybody could have done that, guys. It doesn't matter who it was.
The one that did it.
Harrison Butker did it. He jumped into action and he did it. So credit to Harrison Butker for being one hell of a teammate and being a good human by doing that, just being instinctual. But shout out to Freimeyer and the rest of the medical staff. Freimeyer's been a hero forever, man. I mean, we also got to remember she saved the Chiefs 2022 season with how she handled Patrick Mahomes' high ankle injuries. So we know this woman's a legend here, man. So shout out to them. Shout out to the medical staff, the ambulances that came in, the fire department. Yeah. Because this is a matter of life and death, guys. It could have been far worse. We know that some people, when they go into seizures, go into cardiac arrest, they have permanent brain damage. They never wake up. Some people just die. I mean, there's a lot of things. Luckily, BJ's a younger man. He's only 25 years old, so that probably helped a lot with this. He's awake. He's alert. I'm expecting him to play football this season. I think this could have been a far worse situation than it actually was. So we need to look at this as that this is a blessing in disguise. It's never a good thing for this to happen. I'm not trying to sit here and say, this is good for him to go through, but there is a silver lining here. We didn't lose a human being. We didn't lose a teammate, for the Chiefs. He's going to be okay. And this was something that very much worried a lot of us Chiefs fans because, you feel like you're a part of the family. You feel like you're a part of the community. But it kind of brought me back to the Damar Hamlin situation. I know it's different in the severity, but it made me feel that same way of now I kind of understand what it's like to have that type of, not tragedy, but a situation similar to what Buffalo Bills fans were kind of going through. And again, that was in front of the whole world on live television, so there was a different dynamic there. But to know that somebody was suffering something that could have potentially taken their life in the facility, it does make you realize just how human all of this is and how human we all are at the end of the day. We see these badass titans of human beings called football players go out there and run through each other, and you feel like they're immortals. At the end of the day, man, they're built of the same stuff we are, believe it or not. They might have more of it. They might be stronger than a lot of us. They might be faster than a lot of us. But at the end of the day, they have hearts, they have brains, they have bones, they have flesh and blood. And B.J. Thompson is definitely just a human being, and we're glad that he's still around, and he's going to be around, and he's going to continue to be a part of this team for the foreseeable future. So I just wanted to put that out there because I felt that was something we definitely needed to address. I feel like it was the biggest story, biggest talking point amongst Chiefs community this week. Yep. I hate that it was. I hate that it was another negative thing that we had to talk about, but there is a positive in all. And like I said, it's the fact that the person's still around, and this medical staff was ready for this type of situation. It didn't overwhelm them. It didn't freak them out to the point where they couldn't handle the pressure. They stepped in and did their jobs, and I couldn't be more proud of this franchise as a whole for taking care of business. We also got some news this week, guys. I don't know if you saw this, even as early as this morning before the show went live. So we knew since the 3/8 sales tax extension went down and was voted down by Jackson County a couple of months ago that it was inevitable that the Royals were not going to be at Kauffman Stadium anymore. We just didn't know where they were going to go. A lot of people are still hoping it's going to be downtown. That was voted down. The Chiefs had the $800 million renovation proposal. I called it out immediately here on the Spoken. I said that this was a half-assed attempt. I didn't buy it. I said I think Clark Hunt has a real plan here to move away from Arrowhead Stadium, to move out of Jackson County. I believe he wants to go to Kansas. And since this bill went down and was voted down, I have been of the belief, Trevor's been of the belief, we've been saying it on this show, a lot of people have been saying it for a couple of months now, that the Chiefs will be in Kansas. I think that's the worst kept secret right now in the city, is that it's just a matter of when, not if. And we know that the Chiefs like to be about 5-6 years ahead of what their plans are. And what would you know? It's about 6 years away from their extension, 6-7 years away from their extension or their lease to be up at Arrowhead Stadium. I think that we're going to be getting a decision very soon with the Chiefs. If we could put that first slide up there, Trevor, because this is from John Holt, who's been very much in the know from Fox 4. He said, breaking in a poll commissioned by supporters of Kansas, luring the Chiefs across the state line, majority support using star bonds to help. If you look right here, 57% voted yes to 27% saying no. 15% are unsure. So the 15%, you have to kind of look at that loosely, because those are people that aren't saying no, but they're not saying yes, but they're more on the side of what am I going to get out of it, or are we going to get taxed more? Once they realize what the star bonds are actually all about, I'm guaranteeing you at least 10% of this 15 or 10 of the 15% will vote in the yes side of things, because they'll understand the benefit of it, and that the Kansas people will not be getting taxed more. That star bonds will be fully funding these stadiums for 30 years, and that is the biggest attraction, I think, for the Chiefs in this regard. And like I said, this was back about 4 or 5 days ago when John Holt tweeted this out. This morning, we had gotten an additional news from John Holt in regards to the Royals. And this one says right here, guys, you can put that on the screen. Breaking. Royals confirm club will explore Kansas for new home in light of Star Bond's proposal. Statement from the Royals. They have it below. The Royals basically break down why they're still considering this. They're considering all options, but we know what this really means. Both these teams have a golden opportunity here to stay within the metro, to stay within the region of where the majority of their fan base is, and have an opportunity to basically pay nothing for their new stadiums. Is the location ideal for the Royals? Probably not. Is the location ideal for the Chiefs? I would say yes. But when it comes to money, when it comes to the funds being given to you to where you don't have to dish out the bill, because as we remember, guys, Royals majority owner John Sherman was willing to fork out $1 billion of his own money to build the downtown stadium. And he was willing to locate the place in 2 different spots in the downtown area, because Mayor Quentin Lucas thought it'd be better to move it away from where they originally had it in the East Village. So that we know that this is something that John Sherman wanted all along, to keep it in the metro. If you're telling John Sherman, hey, you ain't got to fork that $1 billion out, we'll take care of it for the next 3 decades with the star bonds, I'd almost have to have somebody explain to me why you wouldn't do that. Sure, other areas like Nashville are intriguing because it's a really good market. They've been dying for baseball out there for a long time. But John Sherman is a native Kansas Cityan. I have a hard time believing, and maybe I'm just speaking out of my ass here. I've been known to do that a time or two, but it's not because I'm trying to paint a picture that fits my narrative. I'm just trying to do a common sense perspective narrative here. If I'm a local native, billionaire, that owns the team I grew up loving and adoring, and I can keep them in the same city, or at least in the same region with the same city name, and I don't have to pay for it?
Seems like a good deal.
Yeah, because I don't think people understand that moving teams, first of all, you have to have the approval from the league to move your team out of a city, state, region, right? That costs anywhere from $300 to $500 million in its own self. Not to mention the cost it'll cost up front from John Sherman to have. Let's say he decides to go to Nashville.
Yeah.
He's spending upwards of $500 million to uproot the Royals to Nashville. Then you're looking at how much probably $2 billion to spend on a new stadium in Nashville. So John Sherman would be out almost twice as much money as he would have been just building the stadium in downtown if it was voted yes. And it was a substantial amount to vote to build downtown in Kansas City. So the option is spend $1.5 to $2 billion in a city that you don't want to initially be in, or stay in Kansas City and let it pay for itself.
Our guy Max Wasson in the chat says this. He says, Royals could still build a downtown stadium in Wyandotte County. Maybe we'll get some upward growth in KCK.
Remember, we talked about this, Trevor, about how cool it would be to see the development of downtown KCK.
Yeah.
If they built, because go look at Detroit, just for instance.
They're starved for development down
Oh,
there.
God, yes. I mean, they got the casino and a couple of dive bars that people like.
Yeah.
You know, our guy John Stoner has down in Strawberry Hill. Right. He's got a nice little bar down there. Outside of that, they don't really have a lot. It's like a very eclectic vibe.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Westport Light.
Yeah.
If they put a freaking baseball stadium down there, and not to mention the fact the Royals playing good baseball, let's say they continue to play good baseball over the next 5-6 years, you're looking at Detroit again, where you saw where Detroit was downtown before they built the stadium down there, and now where you've seen them 35 years later. And the development it's 6 times the size of what it was before.
And that area would be right. I mean, it'd be another right off the highway kind of set, location as well. So it'd be convenient.
Yeah. So this to me, guys, I don't want to sound like I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But because of the fact that it's such a common sense proposal, where Kansas is literally offering you the same region, and you're not spending any money. Like, Trevor, I mean, imagine somebody telling us, hey, man, we're going to give you guys a better house in the same city you want to live in, and you don't got to pay rent. Or
it's a bond, so it's technically a loan, though, correct?
30 years. They don't have to pay something for 30 years, is what I'm saying. Imagine somebody telling you, Trevor, hey, we'll give you a bigger, better house in the city you want to live in, the same city you're living in right now.
Giving up some leverage, but yeah.
But for 30 years, you don't have to pay anything, Trevor. Like, I don't really know what we're talking about here at this point. You know what I mean? At this point, it's just a matter. To me, now that we know the Royals are interested, then the June 17 meeting is going to happen. The Star Bond meeting is going to happen. The Chiefs have already confirmed they're going to be there. I think it's all but confirmed the Royals are going to be there as well. Yep. And I think once that happens, you're going to see an announcement. I think before the end of the year. I think you're going to, at least from the Chiefs. I think by November or December, you're going to hear a confirmation from Clark Hunt's representatives that the Chiefs have agreed to move to Kansas, and they'll be moving over there within the next 3 to 4 years. I think they'll start breaking ground on a new stadium. They're not going to waste any time, because I know people are like, what about their lease? Guys, go look this up. The lease number for the Chiefs is actually very surprising how little amount of money they actually spend on their lease per year. So right now, the Chiefs are spending around $450,000 a year on their lease at Arrowhead Stadium. Clark Hunt can write a check right now without a moment's hesitation and buy out the rest of their lease. If he knows he can get a new stadium in Kansas in the next 3 to 4 years, you better believe that he would expedite the process of those last 3 to 4 years left on that lease. I believe that's what would happen. And we know that Coffin's going away anyway, so we know that that's going to be something that John Sherman's going to dismiss anyway. So this is all just stemming. This is all, like I said, a matter of when, not if. Kansas, it's all in their hands now. Yeah. I really believe all the leverage is on Kansas.
Max Wasson follows that up with, this could be the stepping stone to putting the city in Kansas City, Kansas. Yeah, I mean, and with the whole border war thing, and everyone's talking about, well, Kansas City, the stuff to do is in Kansas City, Missouri, and all that, blah blah blah. That's always been like a talking point. But this could definitely be a chance for KCK to get themselves, a true downtown, with a lot more events and venues and things like that, and the attractions would be, starting to level out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that's a solid point for those of us who have grown up on the KCK side of things. But
Shout out to the chat. Looks like we got Ruben de Cruz, Julia Gulia. Obviously, Max is in the chat. Shaggy's in there. Looks like he asked a question. We'll definitely get into that in a second. Matthew Bridgman's back. Good to have you back as well, brother. He asked the question. So, all right, Matt, I know you're new to the channel, brother. So what we do is we put out that so we get people to understand the show is coming. We're still on the back ends of things, getting the production side of things done. We go live every Saturday at 11 a.m. So when you see that the show is going live, but we're not on the screen, that means that we're just getting you prepped, getting you prepared. But count on at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, we will be going live. So just wanted to put that out there, brother, real quick, just so you know and understand fully well. I am very bright, by the way. Speaking of production, my God. So there's some more news that came out this week, Trevor. Really exciting for me because it's something that I definitely wanted to see happen this year. Let's go ahead and put him on the screen for me, please. Mr. 𝚃𝙷𝙾𝙼𝙼's back, boys and girls. Really excited about this one. Longtime Chief, drafted in 2019. This is now his official third stint with the Chiefs. And in case you guys know, his rookie year went and came and gone. They let him walk in 2023. Played about 6-7 weeks with the Jets. Realized that wasn't going so well. Decided to go and trade back for their guy, 𝚃𝙁𝙾𝙼. I think it was for a 6th-round pick. And got their guy, 𝚃𝙁𝙾𝙼, back last season. And what would you know? He's the one that caught the game-winning, Super Bowl-winning touchdown.
Mr. Walk-Off himself.
Mr. Walk-Off himself. Now went back. I don't know if you saw, he also went back to his original number 17 because Richie James is no longer on the team. So McColl goes back to number 17. That's why we have that picture there is accurate.
Yep.
When I heard the news, I was excited about it. I ain't gonna lie.
It's a no-brainer, man.
Yeah, I'm a McColl guy. But here's the thing: the reason why I'm excited about it is because of the fact that, unlike a lot of other people, I can actually substantiate what 𝚃𝙁𝙾𝙼 is. Was 𝚃𝙁𝙾𝙼 worth the 2nd-round pick? No. He did not become the guy that the Chiefs expected, that a lot of people were expecting. But guys, we've been talking about this tale for 100 years now. We know why the Chiefs originally drafted 𝚃𝙁𝙾𝙼 when they did. They thought they were replacing Tyreek Hill because they did not know what was going to happen with Tyreek Hill's scandal, allegations, all that stuff off the field. It was very much looking like the Chiefs might lose Tyreek Hill for good. So they overreacted, they overdrafted, and they went with an absolute burner out of Georgia, thinking that would potentially alleviate some of their problems. Now, 𝚃𝙁𝙾𝙼 became a good player, but nowhere near the player they were expecting to get out of that 2nd-round that pick. But a lot like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I know that might make some people roll their eyes, but hear me out. A lot like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, McColl may not have lived up to his draft potential, but still became a key cog in big moments and in big games for the Chiefs over the last 5 to 6 years. It's the same thing with Eric Fisher even. Eric Fisher was the number 1 overall pick in the 2013 draft. He was Andy Reid's first selection as Chiefs head coach. Was Eric Fisher an all-time great left tackle? No. He was a very, top 10-ish, top 12, type of tackle. A good piece. Solid guy. Played 7-8 years in Kansas City. He didn't live up to his draft status. He wasn't, like I said, he wasn't the next Willie Roaf. He wasn't, the next Jonathan Ogden. He wasn't those guys. But he played his part. And he ended up becoming a net positive for the team. That's where I think 𝚃𝙁𝙾𝙼 kind of resides. Is he became something else, and people have not really known how to embrace it. They don't really know how to embrace what he is. And what he is, guys, he's now that veteran. It's crazy to say that now, man. But it's crazy to think also he's going into a 6th season. The Chiefs now have that veteran undersized wide receiver that's a legitimate red zone weapon while taking care of the gimmicky plays along with punt and kick returns if need be. 𝚃𝙁𝙾𝙼 is the most trusted guy on this team right now when it comes to punt returns, kick returns, toss, jet motions, any of those things. If you had to ask me, what one player on this team right now would you give all those responsibilities to without a moment's hesitation? 𝚃𝙁𝙾𝙼.
Yeah.
Am I asking him to go and run the go routes? Am I asking him to run, develop a route tree like Davante Adams? No, that's not his skill set. His skill set is to do all the stuff that the other guys don't do or can't do. And if you look at this wide receiver room right now, you obviously have Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, whenever he does play. We still don't know what's going to happen there. You have your first-round pick in Xavier Worthy. Then you have Mecole Hardman, Nico Remigio, and Justin Watson. Those are the guys right now that I would feel comfortable with having on this roster. I still would love nothing more than to see the Chiefs add another veteran. You know, if by chance, because there is still rumors out there spiraling that Chris Godwin could maybe be a cut or they could be a trade potential.
It's just wild hearing you list off that receiver room, and this is a team we're talking about with the potential to three-peat.
I know. Trust me, I know. And I intentionally left off two names, but hear me out, guys. I know that people are like, what about Sky Moore? What about Kadarius Toney?
Oh, you mean the healthy scratches in the postseason last season?
Help me understand this, Trevor. Like, because maybe
you know how I feel about Kadarius.
Yeah, maybe I'm lost here.
I want to see him succeed, but
Chat, help us out. We've talked about it 100 times, so help me out here. What is it that Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore can do that Mecole can't, right. or at least that they do better
on a consistent level?
Yeah, what is it that those guys can do better that Mecole can't? Because if Mecole is here, those guys don't serve a purpose. Straight up.
Yeah, I think there's more upside with guys like Kadarius Toney just for their pure athletic gifts. But we need consistency on this team. That's what's going to win a championship again here. We don't need bursts of superstardom moments like Kadarius Toney can give you sometimes with big time moments and abilities. But Hardman is a guy that will consistently be a guy that's a gym rat, a book rat. You know, he's going to be one of those guys that's in there. He knows the system. He has the chemistry with Pat. Obviously, he just had the walk-off touchdown to win the Super Bowl previously. So consistency is what we're looking for, guys. You know, like we've talked about on the show already numerous times. Can you just catch the ball when it's thrown to you? Can you not tip drill it? You know what I mean? Can you not, fumble the ball or, whatever it is, run the right route, break the route at the right timing? All these things. That's consistency, and that's what Mecole Hardman can bring to this team over those two guys. Those other two guys, I believe, are more talented and skilled individually, but they lack consistency and they lack communication and lack chemistry at this point. And especially with a guy like Sky Moore has been there as long as he's been here and has yet to really develop into a role. That's the most concerning one to me. Kadarius Toney has kind of been who he's always been, if we're all being honest with ourselves. Sky Moore had a lot of high hopes and has had a lot of time to develop and is just yet to do so. That one's more concerning.
And like you briefly just alluded to, about how you talk about healthy scratches.
Yeah.
Was it not notable to any of you that they brought Mecole Hardman back mid-season, and he not only caught the game-winning touchdown, which I know it wasn't a great extravagant play, but he was trusted in that moment while those two guys were on the sidelines. Like, that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. I'm not trying to paint a picture here where Mecole Hardman's going to be some savior for this team.
Yeah.
But he plays his role. That's why the Chiefs keep bringing him back. That's why they traded for him mid-season. Yes, if the Chiefs had a better wide receiver core, they wouldn't bring Mecole Hardman back. And I wouldn't be sitting here petitioning for it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, and Mecole Hardman obviously isn't as sexy. Even his last free agency, I mean, the Jets gave him, a 1-year deal and it was worth pennies, you know what I mean? So he's not, this is a guy that just simply fits this system for the Chiefs and the guy that knows, every team kind of has one of those guys that can kind of come back in, revolving door type deal. If he wants to come back and play, he can come back and play. Randall Cobb with Aaron Rodgers, guys like that that don't garner a lot of hype, but they're just guys that the QB knows and trusts. This is just for me, it's a no-brainer move. And I mean, Mecole immediately can slide in and be, Pat's go-to guy. You know what I mean? Like as far as the receiving goes, especially where she's out and what the development, of Xavier Worthy looks like. He's going to get probably a lot of looks and a lot of work early on if those two guys aren't available or if Xavier Worthy is not developing quickly. Yeah, man. I mean, to me, it makes way too much sense, especially if moves are made. Guys don't make this roster that a lot of people think that might. Who knows, man? This definitely puts a lot more pressure on Sky Moore and Kadarius to perform and show up to goddamn practice. Things like that. That should put Coles under their feet for sure.
Because one thing Sky Moore does, I'll give nice McColl's. I like that.
McColl's on their feet. Yes.
One thing I will give Sky Moore is that he's there every practice. He stays healthy. He tries hard. I will always give Sky Moore that.
Yeah.
But I am starting to wonder, and I know our guys all chiefed up, and I respect the opinion. I know they haven't given up on Sky yet. I have. Because of the fact that with all those factors in play, with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, you should be excelling. There's no excuse.
Yeah, dude.
This is why I never bought into MVS. MVS had prime Aaron Rodgers and was averaging 480 yards and 2 touchdowns a season. I'm sorry. If you're not producing with prime Aaron Rodgers, when he only had one other guy to throw the ball to in Davante Adams, I don't think you're that good of a football player. And I think that's where Sky Moore falls. I think that Sky Moore's got talent, got potential, and that there is a theory out there that I'm willing to entertain for at least some more time, I guess, is, well, the Chiefs aren't utilizing him correctly. Well, I'm sorry, but I think I'm going to trust this coaching staff over Sky Moore. I think that I'm going to trust that Andy Reid's going to know how to utilize these pieces better than, Sky Moore's like, yeah, man, they're underutilizing me. They're not using me correctly. I think they probably see, you got a lot of limits to you, man. Like, unless we're just like literally just dumping the ball off to you, you're really not doing anything in this offense, at least at any magnitude. And excuse me. And when it comes to 𝚃𝙷𝙾𝙼, I mean, I don't know. I outside of pride, I don't even know why the team's holding on to him. Doesn't show up to OTAs. We're not hearing anything about him, him busting his ass, training hard, things of that nature. But even when we did last season, we saw what that translated to into on the football field this last year when he was expected to be a guy in this offense. And for me, I just feel like it's more of just dead weight being carried. Like, I'm critical on Justin Watson, but if we're at the end of the day, we know, man, that Justin Watson here and there is going to show up big in a game. He'll have a big catch on third down. Yeah. He'll have a nice touchdown. He'll do something positive. We didn't see that at all last season when 𝚃𝙷𝙾𝙼 was expected to be a guy, not a wide receiver 4, a wide receiver 1, and he wasn't that. So we're talking about now the comparisons of Mecole Hardman, Sky Moore, 𝚃𝙷𝙾𝙼, who's making the team. I'm sorry, but the Chiefs don't bring in Mecole Hardman unless he's fully making this team. And Mecole Hardman is 100% making this team. I heard Pete Sweeney yesterday on 610 talk about how there's no guarantees he'll make this team. Yes, there are. Mecole Hardman is 100% making this roster. Mark that down. He is not losing his job to a 𝚃𝙷𝙾𝙼 or a Sky Moore. The Chiefs would be morons to do that. Because, again, I'll ask the question to everybody, and I hope somebody has an answer for me. Name me one thing 𝚃𝙷𝙾𝙼 and Sky Moore can do better or period at any level higher than what Mecole Hardman can do. Please name it.
Or even if, as much as we love our guy Remigio, like, even him, I'm giving that spot to Mecole Hardman. I am. Like, that's just a guy, man. That's a guy that has the trust. He's not a developmental player. He's a guy that's been a part of this team and has won several championships with this team. That's a guy, to me, that brings more value to this locker room and this team on a consistent level on the field more than any of those guys. Is there more upside? Like I've clearly stated, yes, I think there's more upside with all of those guys than Mecole Hardman, right? Because I think they have some untapped potential, but are they going to be able to tap into that untapped potential? That's the question on a consistent level. Because we need consistency, man. There's no room for. We've been public enemy number 1 for these last 2 championships, and we've found ways to reach the mountaintop these last 2 years. This is going to be the toughest one. You guys don't think this is going to be the toughest one, regardless of how good or worse other teams got? We're going to get the nasty, grittiest performances from all these teams. We saw with the Raiders last year, that Super Bowl win they had against us. That was their in-season Super Bowl. Like, we're going to get those every single week, man. And we have a gauntlet, once again, of a schedule. But at the same time, man, these guys got to play us, so we need guys that can go out there and perform on a consistent level.
If we could, Trevor, let's go ahead and put up my Chiefs offseason wish list.
All right, I got you.
Would you look at it? Man, I'm getting closer, Trevor.
Chipping away.
I got 50% of this list done, man. Now, obviously, we know the re-signing Nick Allegretti is not possible because obviously he went and signed with the Commanders, which is understandable because they gave him a starting gig. But there's still some opportunity there, guys. And the top 2 right there, I'm not playing when I say that I would still take either one of those. If the Chiefs traded for a 2025 conditional 7th-round pick for Sky Moore, I'm taking it. If they could get a 2026 conditional 6th-round pick for 𝚃𝙷𝙾𝙼, I'm taking it. I just think those things benefit this team better than what those guys are doing for this team right now. And quite frankly, I think there would be a little bit of a, whether the team would admit it or not, a little bit of a... like a weight's been lifted off of us because we don't have to worry about these guys being on the field fucking things up for this offense anymore.
A little addition by subtraction.
Yeah, man, because to that, and I still think that a Juwan Taylor restructure is possible because it doesn't extend his contract any. It just moves some of the money and it frees up. I think it frees up around like $10-12 million for the Chiefs if they want to do that. I do think Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith and Butker are going to get deals this offseason. I do think that's going to happen. So I do think those check marks will be struck down. Technically, if you want to go by it, guys, the signing the depth piece wide receiver, I guess you could check that off too with the Mecole Hardman re-signing. I would still hold out hope that maybe another veteran will be out there that a team cuts due to salary constraints. They bring him in and have him on the cheap, and he's an effective piece. I'm not expecting a top-flight wide receiver. I would love Chris Godwin again if the Bucs are willing to trade him, if they're willing to move off of him. That's a big if, though, because we know the Bucs just gave Baker Mayfield a big contract. They still have Mike Evans. They have a lot of veterans on this team. More than likely, the Buccaneers are going to hold on to Chris Godwin, even though they did draft his replacement. And Tristan Wirfs is going to get a fat contract this next offseason. We know that's going to happen. So Chris Godwin's probably playing his last year at the Bucs, which is the whole reason why this has even been a conversation. And moving him from the NFC to the AFC is ideal. So we'll hold out hope there, guys, when it comes to the depth piece. But, Trevor brought up Nicco Remigio. If you could, Trevor, let's put it up from our guys all chiefed up on the Nicco Remigio update. So we all pay attention to one wide receiver, it seems like, every offseason. Last year it was Justin Ross. This year, for me, it's without question, it's Nicco Remigio.
Yep.
Because I'm telling you guys, this man is making this roster. I know, Trevor, you alluded to, whether it be between him and McColl, you'd give the spot to McColl. The good thing about this is I don't think it's ever going to come down to those two.
Yeah, I hope not.
I think it's going to come down to McColl Hardman versus like 𝚃𝙺𝙳𝙀𝙀 or Sky Moore. I think Nicco Remigio is in a lane of his own because of the fact that he, in my opinion, is going to be the better receiver of all three of those, of all four of these guys. Right here, if you see where guys are all chiefed up, said, big day from Nicco Remigio today. Wide receiver caught 8 passes during scrimmage from work and 5 were from Mahomes. The reason why it's important to quantify the 5 from Mahomes is that means he was getting first-team snaps, which means that 5 of his 8 catches were in a position of, I might play real football with this team. And with the scarcity of wide receiver on this team right now, if Nicco just does his job, if he just goes out there and catches passes, which is, again, this team led the league in the NFL last year and dropped passes with 44. If he just goes out there and is a reliable catching of the ball kind of guy, he makes this team. Because that's one thing that Sky Moore and 𝚃𝙺𝙳𝙀𝙀 have had a lot of problems with, as we know. McCole Hardman, even to his own fault, has ran routes incorrectly or didn't chase a ball down, didn't track a ball down. We saw that even against the Dolphins in the playoffs. He lost the ball in the lights. Whatever the case may be, it's very frustrating to watch. To me, Nicco Remigio, even though he's not the athlete of a 𝚃𝙺𝙳𝙀𝙀, he doesn't have the burning ability of a McCole Hardman. He has that what you want in a it's like that solid role player that just you know what I quantify it as, Trevor? It's kind of like Derek White from the Celtics. The NBA Finals are going on right now.
Sure.
There's nothing special about Derek White except that forehead. Like, there's nothing special about him. But he does so many things so good. It's like across the board. He has like no true weakness. Plays good perimeter defense, good paint defense for the size that he's at, shoots the ball well,
jack of all trades,
rebounds well, passes well. Like, he's just a plus. Like, everything he does is just a plus. That's what I think a Nicco Remigio could be for this offense. Just a plus. He doesn't have to be the guy. I don't think he'll ever be the guy. I don't think that's in his talent, his ability. I don't think he's ever going to be something of a top-tier, top-flight receiver. But if he could be I could see him being a wide receiver 3. I could see him being a wide receiver 3 or 4 in this offense. And if you can just be a net positive, we're on 3rd and 5s, you're catching those 6-yard dig routes, then that's the guy you want on this team. What have I always said on this show, Trevor, about when it comes to the wide receiver position? Sure, you want the superstars. You want your Tyreek Hills. You want your DeAndre Hopkins. You want those guys because those are the guys that do everything at a high level. But Patrick Mahomes has never needed those guys. What he needs is a Juju Smith-Schuster. Just dudes that catch the damn ball and run the routes correctly. If you have those guys, this team's winning Super Bowls. So that's the way I think this team's going to continue to build. I do believe eventually they're going to have to spend big money at wide receiver because Travis Kelce's not going to stay forever. And eventually they're going to have to say, you know what? We're going to have to pay a guy $25 million. We're going to have to go get that top flight guy. And that day's coming for Patrick Mahomes because Patrick Mahomes got a lot of football left in him. But right now, a guy like Nicco Remigio, what I can see, and now he's unproven, so obviously we have to let him show himself, but everything we've seen from him in the time that he's played with this team in practice, preseason, things of that nature, there's nothing negative about his game. He may not be the athlete, like we talk about the RAS scores. Our guy, Mike Williams from All Cheeked Up says that. He goes, it's weird. Like, you look at his RAS scores, there's no way this guy's making the team. But he just does everything
There's always
right.
those guys, though.
Yes.
There's always, Golden Tate was one of those guys. There was a solid player for a long time in the league, and he was undersized. I think that's what Remigio could be if he like peaks out and become like he could become a similar player. He's pretty good after the catch, strong guy, just a strong-willed guy too. And I think he's a guy that will do his job. Like he's like one of those, bring your lunch pail to work kind of guys that just kind of shows up and does his thing. So I mean, that's all we need to win championships, and we just do what Pat needs you to do, and what Andy needs you to do, and that's been a successful formula for a while here now.
And if Remigio is already, because now this is year 2, if he's already garnered that type of trust from Patrick Mahomes. Look, man, I'm not sitting here telling you guys that Patrick Mahomes is telling Andy Reid who to keep and who not to keep, but you'd be an idiot to think that Patrick Mahomes doesn't have some say. If they're sitting there, the coaching staff's talking about their final cuts, you don't think for a second that Patrick Mahomes is knocking on that door and saying, hey, I'd like to at least give my 2 cents. As your
you already know that.
Your star quarterback, your $500 million quarterback. I'd like to come in here and drop my 2 cents as to who I'd like to see on this roster. Sure, in front of the press, Patrick is as diplomatic as they come. He's very presidential, at least, presidential from, like 10, 15 years ago.
Everyone's heard the mic ups by now. Everyone knows he's a freaking dog.
But I'm saying, like, in front of the cameras, he's like, oh, yeah, man, I love my guys. Everybody's great. I love them all. You love the wrong motherfucker. But on the field, he wants his dudes to do their fucking jobs. He wants the right guys out there.
Yeah.
You saw in that Patriots game, he was done with Kadarius Toney. He was done.
Yeah.
And you didn't see Kadarius Toney again. He was, you know what? I get this dude off the fucking field. I've defended this guy. He's causing nothing but problems. I have a hard time believing that if Nico Remigio keeps playing like this in training camp, let's say training camp comes around in a few weeks, and Remigio's doing the same shit every single day, catching passes, running his correct routes, and pressing the fans. You hear the crowd going nuts. Woo! All those things. He stays healthy, dude's making the team. I understand, guys, the Chiefs have a bunch of dudes that have the same skill sets, but if you have one or two of those guys that are the similar skill sets, but are doing everything else at a higher level and more consistently, I think those guys should make the team. I understand the pride of trading for Kadarius Toney and going and getting Sky Moore in the second round. You want those things to pan out because those are the guys that you spent real assets on. Nico Remigio is an undrafted free agent, so it didn't cost you anything to go and get him. He's not costing you anything right now. But what's more important, saving face or bettering your chances for a three-peat? It's door number 2, damn it. And if you ask me right now, even with the unknown of Nico Remigio, I would be willing to take on the unknown factors of Nico Remigio that have to deal with the same shit that we know we're getting from Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. That's just my opinion. What do you think about that, Trev?
Well, I just want to throw this in there. We have a comment that I thought was interesting from our guy Chase on YouTube. He says they should try Toney at running back. He's not an every down wide receiver. What do you think about that?
I think that Toney's not built to be playing running back because he's an injury-prone player as it is. You imagine, you guys know that running backs, the reason why their careers are so short is because they get hit more than almost anybody on the field. Imagine Kadarius Toney getting hit 8, 9 more times per game. There's no way he survives the first month of the season. I understand that the question. I'm not trying to shit on it. My point though is Kadarius Toney got hurt in the open field on an opening punt return at OTAs last year. Didn't get hit and got hurt. Imagine 310-pound men laying on him through the B gap. It's just not going to happen. Kadarius Toney, he's a speedster, so he's going to go on the outsides anyway. He's never going to be a guy that runs up the middle. But if you try to get his tiny little frame, I know he's about 6 foot tall, so he's not a small guy.
He's not
but his frame, he's only about 190 pounds. He's not a big dude.
Yeah.
You get his tiny frame up that gut, he's going to get squashed.
Yeah, he's not playing running back.
No.
I just thought that was a funny thought.
It's like, oh, yeah. I get it.
But yeah, as far as the Remigio stuff goes, man, I mean, you already know I'm on board with this guy. I want to see him make the roster. Just for the fact that we'd be right about him, that'd be fun too to talk on the show. And wave that accuracy flag around. But I think he's one of those guys. I think this has it, man. And I think as far as I'm a believer in Kadarius Toney still. I believe in his skill set. I believe he could become a weapon for this team. But a lot of that's up to him. I mean, a lot of that is up to him really wanting to put in the work and become that, and obviously staying healthy is a part of that as well. Sky Moore, I've kind of dropped off on him entirely, man. I just don't think he's had way too much time to develop, and he's developed into nothing. And a lot of it isn't all his fault. I'll give him that. I think the team hasn't done, similar to the Clyde situation, hasn't done the best to put him in the position to succeed the most and what his skill set is. But at the same time, you've got to be able to adapt. If you want to be an NFL player, you've got to be able to adjust and adapt to what it is that the team needs from you at those times. And I just don't think he has it. And we're gonna see, man. There's a lot of bottom feeding going on. Who's gonna make it out of the bottom tier of these receivers in this room? But if Remigio is continuing to garner hype and get targets at practice while other guys are not even present at these practices, I mean that alone should tell you enough. That's kind of how guys like Justin Watson, I know he was brought over here, but those guys kind of got their chops and worked their way up through the roster. The roster was just to simply put in the work, man, and be available, be there. I know Kadarius was working out with the guys this before OTAs and all that with Rasheed and all them. He was getting in some work then, but that doesn't matter, man. That's behind us now. Like being present for the team stuff is important too, regardless if it's voluntary or not. So I'm Team Remigio, man. I hope he makes the roster because I like guys like that. I like guys that have something to play for. Actually have pride and they don't act like they've arrived somehow and they've done jack shit in their career so far. That's not a fun thing for me to witness as a team that's trying to three-peat here. So having guys that have the heart and have the chip on their shoulder to become something, and that drive is something that is easy for teams that are looking to win a third straight championship. Those guys become content, and bringing in some guys that haven't tasted that yet is very important to me. So a guy like Remigio makes too much sense to me, to be honest with you, man.
Too much sense is correct. I ran a poll a couple days ago about Rashee Rice. I know this has been the talking point. I don't want to talk about his criminal history right now because I know that's the pressing matter. I just wanted to get a feel from Chiefs fans because we know that he's on his rookie deal right now. Going into year 2. He'll have 2 years after this, so 2026 would be his final season on his rookie deal for the Chiefs. And then obviously that the Chiefs would have to work out an extension. They probably, if they were to extend Rashee, it would probably be in the 2026 season or before it. We know that the Chiefs have not really spent a lot of money at wide receiver over these last several years. In fact, the last lucrative deal I think they gave out was Sammy Watkins in 2018. I think it was like $18-19 million a year. I know Tyreek got a little bit of an extension, but that wasn't anything very notable. But outside of those two instances, the Chiefs really have not spent money at wide receiver. And it has worked out. But I wanted to know where the majority of Chiefs fans sit when it comes to Rashee Rice, the player, and whether they view him as a long-term answer for the Chiefs. Now let's go ahead and put that poll up there real quick. So if you see right here, a lot of people believe that Rashee Rice is a long-term answer here in Kansas City, 82%. Now, again, remember when I say long-term answer, I'm not talking about fulfilling out his rookie deal. I'm talking about beyond his rookie deal, playing into his late 20s, maybe even potentially early 30s with the Chiefs. And 82% of the voters think that that's the reality here. I do not. Now, this isn't a negative thing. This is what I call business. This is the business side of football that a lot of fans don't like to talk about because it involves oftentimes you have to move off of players. But as we've talked about on the show with guests, with Trevor and I, this is going to be the reality of things in Kansas City as long as this regime is here. As long as Brett Veach, Andy Reid, and Patrick Mahomes are running things. Because we know that they have to be willing to sacrifice at certain spots in order to keep things the way they are. Now, I just said 10 minutes ago the Chiefs are going to spend at wide receiver one day. That will happen. But I don't think it's going to be Rashee Rice. And the biggest reason why, guys, is because I do believe the Chiefs have a very, very serious trust issue with him now. If he had zero issues off the field, I would say there's a pretty substantial chance that he keeps playing the way he played last season and then goes into this next season, puts up 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. The season after that, when he's starting to really hit stride, he puts up 1,200 yards and 9-10 touchdowns. At that point, what are we even talking about? You'd have a 25, 26-year-old dude that is worth every penny of what you'd have to pay him. The problem, though, is we still don't know who Rashee Rice truly is because we have a handful of games, although those handful of games are very impressive. I like what we got out of him. He's a very productive player, played a role in this team winning the Super Bowl. We don't know for sure if that is who he is because we only have about a half a season of it. And now we have issue upon issue during this offseason of, okay, who's Rashee Rice the guy now? We no longer are sitting here just wondering about the player. We're wondering about the guy and whether you can trust both. It's one thing to worry about, can we trust the player? Can he continue to, improve and continue to climb that ladder? Now it's, can he mentally take on being a very famous player? Because we know when you play with Patrick Mahomes, you play with this team in a dynasty, your clout goes up significantly.
Can't be punching the paparazzi, is what you're saying?
Basically, yes. We're seeing Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, an offensive lineman, getting on commercials. They're on WWE with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
These are the linemen. Now, we're not even talking about Travis Kelce, who's on like 2 or 3 different TV series the upcoming year. He's in a new Lucky Charms commercial. Oh, by the way, he's in one of the top 5 podcasts in the world right now with his brother. And he's the greatest tight end who ever lived. Like, the fame's coming, guys, with these guys that are going to be with Patrick Mahomes. The fame's coming. Andy Reid's in commercials now, for Christ's sake. You don't think for a second that if Rashee Rice kept his nose clean and played 2-3 seasons in this offense and started balling out, that he wouldn't be on commercials with Patrick Mahomes? That he wouldn't be getting these humongous endorsement deals and all this notoriety? These are things the Chiefs are having to start to consider. Is he going to be a guy that not only can handle the pressures and expectation of becoming a baller on the field on a weekly basis, but can he be a guy that represents the team off the field in a correct manner? I don't think he's that guy because of what he's proven to me this offseason. I'm not saying that 1 mistake or 2 mistakes define a person, but when it comes to business, if I'm going to be spending potential $100 million deal into a player, I need to know that the dude's going to handle business when no one else is watching or only TMZ is watching, not when he's around the coaching staff. That's why guys like Justin Jefferson, I know Justin Jefferson obviously is a much better player than Rashee, but hear what I'm saying. Justin Jefferson doesn't have off-field issues. That's why the Vikings were able to you know what? This dude's so great on the field and he's so great off the field. This is a no-brainer. Pay him $110 million guaranteed. Could the Chiefs really do that right now, even if Rashee was putting up Justin Jefferson numbers? No, because we just saw them turn that down for a guy like Tyreek Hill. So these are the problems. This is my problem right now. I want nothing but success for Rashee. I've been saying that over and over again on the show, but I do not think at this time he's a guy the Chiefs view as a long-term answer. I do think he will, if everything stays the same right now, he will play out his rookie deal with the Chiefs. I do believe that. But when push comes to shove and money has to go into hand, I don't think the money's going to be coming into Rashee's hand from Brett Veach and the Chiefs. Sure, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, he's definitely finishing out his rookie contract, but at the same time, I think he's a long-term guy if this is the only occurrence in his, if he doesn't get his head out of his ass with this situation that he's put himself in. It's hard to say because this is kind of one of those crossroad moments as what we feel about him. I mean, obviously the people have spoken. They very much believe that he is a part of long-term plans for the Chiefs. And I tend to agree, man. I think, in his rookie season, leading the league in yards after catch, that's a massive statement for him. Especially having, like we've discussed numerous times, coming on late in the season and still managing to do that. It was hyper impressive. And I love his abilities with this offense. I think what he does with this offense is similar to what Sammy Watkins was able to do and more, because I think he's faster than Sammy was when he was here. I think he's just as physical as Sammy was. Two very physical guys after the catch. And I think he's got more better downfield speed, in my personal opinion, because he could be a field stretcher if need be as well. We've seen that already also. So I think 100%. I think he's already established himself as a massive weapon. It does all come down to the very vulnerable aspect of his off-field decisions, and that's something that's ruined a lot of careers in the NFL and sports in general. A lot of promising what-ifs in the history of sports that have come down to extremely talented guys and women that have ruined certain things off the field for themselves, and that's a tragedy, man. Because that's their livelihood, and this is what they spent their life, becoming, and they've squandered certain opportunities. I'm hoping that's not the case with Rashee. I tend to be optimistic and wanting to believe in him, getting himself right and figuring things out, and acknowledging that he dodged a massive bullet without taking someone else's life in the situation he put himself in, and who he surrounds himself with, who he takes advice from, who his circle is. Lean into the guys in this locker room that have been around, things like that. Take the leadership of these coaches and this staff. Hopefully that's what he's doing. And you know, him being in OTAs, him getting in reps with Pat before OTAs, those are all important things. Those are good things to see, that he's around the guys that we know and trust that in this situation that he's in right now. So I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say yes. He's gonna be a guy that's gonna get a good extension, a good contract extension once his time comes. I'm gonna say he is, because I think he is very valuable for what he does in this, what his skill set is. We don't know what Xavier Worthy is gonna be, especially. I mean, it could go two ways. I mean, we've got time with Xavier Worthy. Obviously, he's got another 4 years or so before he really gets paid.
5 years if they pick up his option.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've got time. By the time he's getting paid, we could be at the end of that whatever Rashee Rice was making. And I know Chris Jones is making a handsome chunk of money too, but by the time his contract's up, Rashee will be in line to get paid. So I think it kind of lines up perfectly the way they're doing it. Only other big contract I can see is maybe a McDuffie if we end up paying him, you know, whatever that time will come. I do believe we do pay him too. So I think Rashee's a guy, man. I think he's if everything clears up on the off-field stuff, and he just focuses and really leans into and gets things and rights the ship for himself personally, I think he 100% is a massive weapon for a long time in Kansas City. I actually do believe that.
The problem,
I'm with the people.
I get it, because I know a lot of people love Rashee, but I want people to see this, and I'm not trying to convince anybody to see it from my perspective, because
It's fair, bro.
I'm really trying to tap into how the Chiefs do things.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just I have a hard time believing that even if from this point on, like, Rashee keeps his nose clean, I do really wonder if the Chiefs are going to, you know, say, hey, listen, like, we're about to give this dude an even larger amount of money than he had in his rookie deal. Now we're giving him even more expectation to be the guy to handle the pressures outside of football and inside football. Can we really believe this guy's going to do it?
Yeah.
Because look, if Rashee, and I hate to say it this way because I know it sounds like I'm really splitting hairs here, but if Rashee was like 21 years old this offseason and did what he did, it would feel it would still be stupid as hell, but I'd be like, man, he's so freaking young. Like, I kind of like, I'm willing to almost like look past it. Rashee is 24 years old.
Sure.
Like, we're talking about a mid-20s kid. We're not talking about dude that was the high schooler a couple of years ago. We're talking about a dude that's in the middle of his 20s that should understand. And this didn't happen before the season. This is after he played a pivotal role in the Chiefs becoming back-to-back Super Bowl champions. This is something that has no excuse to it. And so I've heard a lot of people say, oh, he's just a dumb kid. He's not really a kid. You know, I kind of feel like we're talking about like Wedding Crashers when they're sitting there at the steps and, just a couple of kids, we're not that young. You know, like, I kind of feel like that's the conversation we should be having about Rashee. It's like, you're not that young. Like, you're going to be 25 this year. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I hate to say it that way because I know I'm almost like being a little calloused about it, but I feel like that's what business is. It's a calloused approach to where you spend your money. And when the Chiefs don't give Tyreek Hill the money he's looking for, because this, I guess my question to your answer is this, Trevor. If Rashee is going to be that long-term answer, what kind of contract do you think he's getting? Because the market is only going up substantially for wide receiver.
Yeah, and I'll say this to it, and to your he's not that young comment. I look at it differently. In reality, yes, he's not that young in reality. Granted, he is the grand scheme of things. 24 is still very young in the grand scheme of life, but I look at age once you become a pro, once you have that money in your bank, once you have all these things. That's a rebirth. You know what I mean? That's a rebirth in a sense. That's an entirely new life, put upon you. Like, that's a whole other thing. So that was his first year being that person.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it exacerbates your who you are. Like, it's when you have that much money, it'll heighten certain things and it'll open up doors that you never had before. So there's gonna be mistakes involved, right? And this is his chance. Like I said, this is kind of his crossroads for his career. So I look at it that way. I like this is year one for him being this person with this popularity on this team, being that asset, being the guy that had the big rookie year that he had a part of this team. All that. His chest is puffed out, man, and his head is high. You know what I mean? So then he felt invincible. We've had this conversation on this show before. Like, that I couldn't imagine what that high feels like. You know what I mean? So this is year one for him. He's a 1-year-old when it comes to this. He's very young when it comes to this in my mind. So I think that we have to look at it contextually that way. 24 is still young in reality, but at the same time, this is his chance, man. He made his mistake. A lot of guys have made mistakes even older in their careers. You know, I mean, we've seen numerous guys in their careers, you know, make terrible choices with women and you know, things in their life and getting in debt and all these things. I mean, but I look at it like too, like if Kareem Hunt would have came clean and kept his, you know, he came clean with the coaches and didn't lie about his situation before all that footage came out, he probably would have got extended because he was such a.
Oh, you think so?
He probably would have. I mean, dude, what Kareem Hunt was doing in this team, numbers wise, I think he probably would have got. I mean, maybe not got paid because at that time, running backs were getting paid pretty handsomely, not to what they are now. But I think he probably would have got extended if he came clean. Honestly, I think he was such a vital piece to what this offense was and what he could do. I mean, possibly, maybe not, but I think Rashee Rice even more so is a massive part of this offense. What he can do, and as far as what we need in this offense. Running back isn't nearly as important as what a guy like Rashee can do after the catch, let alone catching the damn ball. How vital that is for this offense. So, yeah, man. But as far as contract goes, I mean, who knows? It really depends on who he continues to become. If he takes what he did last year and builds a resume on that, and it continues to one up for the next 2-3 years, pay him whatever he wants. I mean, I mean, it depends on what our books look like. But if Chris Jones is coming off that contract, we have a lot of money freed up off that. We don't have anybody. You know, Travis Kelce's gone. We're gonna need playmakers, and if you got a guy like that who can get you, say he's averaging 1,200 yards a season, getting you 8 to 9 touchdowns a season, that's a guy you pay, man, in this offense, and it could be that deadly after. I mean, I'm not saying pay him top tier money because he's not gonna be worth that.
Well, you say pay him whatever he wants, and that's.
Depending on what the market is for a guy that brings, what his productivity is. Say he's like a DK Metcalf or a guy like that. I think those numbers are going to be eerily similar by the time he's going to put up. If he continues on this trajectory, what he is, he's going to be a DK Metcalf statistically. And I think that's a guy you pay, maybe second tier receiver wise. He's not going to be an elite wide receiver one, in my opinion. But that's what we're hoping Xavier Worthy can become. But he won't be getting paid for a long time. So I think there's going to be a good window, I think, for Rashee Rice once his time comes to get paid. I think there will be a great opportunity for him to do that if he keeps his nose clean and continues to progress on the field.
Well, no offense to the conversation about Xavier Worthy. We know nothing about him as an NFL player yet. But the biggest thing for me when it comes to guys like him, and maybe I'm just wrong on this one, I don't pay long-term to undersized receivers. I just don't.
Oh, you're talking about Xavier Worthy?
Yeah, I don't. If you ask me right now,
it depends if he becomes one of those outlier guys. It really does.
Well, let's say if Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice average the exact same amount of yards and touchdowns per season, I'm paying Rashee Rice.
Yeah,
Rashee Rice is 6'2", 205 pounds. I'm sorry, I pay bigger wide receivers. It's something in me. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying y'all are wrong if you feel differently. I just look at this league, and as you're getting older, you're not gonna be able to sustain a recovery as quickly as you age.
Sure.
So when you're a smaller guy, unless you're the outlier like a Tyreek Hill, I'm not paying you at 29, 30 years old.
Yeah.
I'm paying a guy Rashee's build at 29, 30 years old. Because look at guys like A.J. Brown. They're going to age really well. Look at, you know what I mean? Like Calvin Johnson could have kept playing into his mid-30s. We all know this. He retired way too early. It was almost like he got bored with football. But you know what I mean? But don't make no mistake about it. Calvin Johnson could have still been a top-tier receiver at 35 years old. Look at Randy Moss. He was traveling. He was like doing practically a tour of the NFL, playing for new teams all the time. But he kept finding jobs because he had breakaway galloping speed in the way he ran, and he was 6'4". Like, guys like that are going to have jobs for a long time. I don't think a guy like Xavier Worthy is a guy that I would, and again, maybe he will become an outlier, and I will leave that open. I'll keep my mind open. But right now, I'm not paying a dude that's 5'11", 6 foot, 180 pounds at best, at his heaviest. I'm not doing it.
I mean, we drafted him with our first round pick, so I mean, I think that when you draft someone in that space, you're typically planning on paying them and letting them be a lifer. That's typically the goal.
It's the goal, but I also think that you want 5 years of control.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you get that first round pick, you're getting 5 years of control.
Yeah, but when you invest someone like that, especially at receiver, when the Chiefs know they need a receiver, and that's the guy they went with, that's a guy that they're planning on, keep it around for a while. That should always be the goal if you take someone with your first pick.
Sure. I mean, obviously you want every guy to be a 10-year player. I'm just saying that more than likely your realistic expectation is, look, we can get this guy till he's 27. You know what I mean? Like, we're getting his best years. We're getting his prime physical years. You know what I mean? Like, because wide receivers, they don't age like quarterbacks. Quarterbacks, their apex hits after like 28. Wide receivers, it's 22 to like 26, 27. Like, those are their prime athletic years. You know what I mean? So that's why the Chiefs know they have Xavier Worthy in those years. So that's why. Go ahead.
Yeah, our guy Omar on this, he said he just made a statement. Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis may be in contract talks around the same time as Rashee Rice.
Look, you guys, I'm going to say this, and this might sound controversial.
George will probably come before. It'll probably be at least a season before.
I'm going to be real with you guys real quick. And this is going, people are going to think I'm on like this anti-Trent McDuffie bandwagon. Right now, unless Trent McDuffie starts stringing together all-pro seasons, I'm not paying Trent McDuffie.
This season in particular is a massive one for him.
Absolutely. Dude, he was incredible this season.
I'm saying this season coming.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
With the absence of L'Jarius Sneed being his pilot there, that's going to be massive for him to add to his resume what he can do if he does deserve to be paid, if he could be that true alpha number one without L'Jarius out there.
And let me make this clear, and I want to get to the people, Trevor, because the chat's blowing up, and I really want to get to everybody. So I'm going to shut up in a second. I promise, guys. But bringing up Trent McDuffie in this conversation, if things stay the same right now, where Trent McDuffie's an All-Pro every other year, because he wasn't last year, but he was 2023 or 2022 he wasn't, but 2023 he was. But George Karlaftis keeps getting like 8 to 12 sacks. I'd pay George Karlaftis before I pay Trent McDuffie because of the fact
it's more valuable.
Yes, thank you.
I'm with you.
You know what I mean? Like, I know that's super controversial because everybody's like, "Oh, you wouldn't pay Trent McDuffie? You're insane, guys."
If it came down to a guy that's a consistent pass rusher and a really good quarterback in the league, you got to go with the pass rusher.
I would much rather have a guy that's going to give me 95 to 110 sacks in his career than a really good slot, like a borderline All-Pro annual.
And the market tells you that too.
Slot corner.
The market tells you that too.
Brett Veach would replace Trent McDuffie before he replaces George Karlaftis.
Well, it's because he knows he can on a better basis. I mean, if we're being real about Veach and what his drafts look like, George Karlaftis could be a gem as far as pass rushers goes, as far as what he's taken compared to DBs and his luck with finding great DBs. I'm with you on that. I think that's true. And I also think, I mean, it would, in hindsight, if we're having this conversation, if Rashee Rice does continue to become a great wide receiver and he's averaging 1,200 to 1,500 yards a season and maybe 10 touchdowns, it's going to be a no-brainer. We will easily let McDuffie walk if we have a guy that consistently do that in the wide receiver room. Because
even in my conversation of what I'm saying, my position would change on Rashee.
Yeah.
Because what I would say is this. It's the same thing I was saying about Tyreek Hill. And again, we're doing a heavy projection here of Rashee climbing that ladder. But let's say that Rashee becomes a top 10 receiver in this league.
Yeah.
And he's 27 years old. He's up for 26 years old. He's up for a contract, right?
You pay him, man.
And he's having 1,300 yard seasons and 7 to 10 touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go, look, he had some early concerns.
Yep. He's proven himself.
You got to pay him.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to have that stance.
Yeah.
Especially
if we won maybe 2 more rings over that period of time, bro, it's a no-brainer.
Over this. Hey, George Karlaftis is a 2-time All-Pro. Yeah. He's played his 4th season out, and now they pick up his 5th-year option. Let's pay him. No. Guys.
You pay Rashee, and you trade George Karlaftis maybe before his contract.
Or you trade Trent McDuffie. Because the thing is, again.
We're going so far.
I know. Now, this is the offseason. We're having fun here, guys. Just bear with us.
Of course.
Trent McDuffie is a guy that I think is going to be so insanely valuable for 5 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But what just happened with L'Jarius Sneed? He's 27, soon to be 28 years old, and just had his best season, one of the best seasons we've seen a cornerback have. What did the Chiefs do? They traded him for a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah. Well, because we knew we weren't going to pay him because we have other people to pay, man.
But that's what's going to happen with Trent McDuffie.
But if Rashee becomes like a middle of the pack kind of receiver in the league, and he could become replaceable, and McDuffie is still consistently playing at an elite level and is an absolute lockdown, maybe the number 1 corner of football because he's arguably already that right now, especially in the slot, All-Pro already. If he gets another couple All-Pros in a row or something like that, I mean, that's
what I'm saying.
That's a rarity because I'm not big on paying corner either, but I truly believe Trent McDuffie is an elite talent.
If let me put it like this, because I'm sitting here saying, guys, that I would much rather see the Chiefs move off of Trent McDuffie after year 5 than pay him. But if he's a 4-time All-Pro,
you can't not.
I mean, unless you're getting like a badass haul in return in a trade, you're probably going to pay Trent McDuffie.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? But here's the other thing. Even if the Chiefs don't pay him after 4 All-Pros, Brett Veach can say, I drafted a 4-time All-Pro corner. And I can do that shit again.
The trade assets you can get for a guy like that,
saying,
too.
dude,
Yeah,
that's what Brett Veach has shown us time and time again.
Yeah.
I can draft the shit out of defensive backs. So have faith in me, because you all love to tell me to trust in Veach. I'm telling you now to trust in Veach when it comes to the cornerback position.
Well, yeah,
if they don't pay Trent McDuffie, I'm not going to sit here and sweat it. Just like I didn't sweat when they didn't pay 𝚁𝙧𝙧 Sneed, because I know it's more about the system and it's more about who is evaluating the talent. No offense to Trent McDuffie and 𝚁𝙧𝙧 Sneed.
Yeah.
They're ballers in their own regard, in their own right. My point, though, is you're going to see this season with 𝚁𝙧𝙧 Sneed in Tennessee, the difference between what he was in this system and what he's going to be in that system. No offense to 𝚁𝙧𝙧. He's an awesome player. Played a pivotal role in the Chiefs winning 2 Super Bowls. My point, though, is you know that it's Spag's system that sets these guys up for success. That's why when 𝚁𝙧𝙧 Sneed is gone, this is still going to be a top-tier defense. You're going to see it. This defense is going to continue to do what it does with or without 𝚁𝙧𝙧 Sneed. This defense, in my opinion, is going to continue to do what it does with or without Trent McDuffie. You saw last season, or the season before, Trent McDuffie missed 7 games. And this defense was top 15.
Yeah.
They were still getting to the quarterback. They were still shutting guys down.
Like, this scheme is stupid.
Exactly.
The scheme is stupid.
And he was their first-round pick.
Yeah.
That's my point, man, is that although these guys are great and you can acknowledge that, when you have the coaching staff the Chiefs have, when you have the GM they have, you can say, we don't have to pay these guys.
Yeah.
And it's not fun to the fans because we fall in love with these guys, but it's a part of the business that works.
And then when it comes to roster construction, man, and you have maybe a receiver and a corner that are on the same tier, and then you have maybe George Karlaftis is on the same tier as those guys as well. You always go with the higher talent, what the market demands. It's the receiver or the edge rush. To me, I'm always an edge rush guy. I feel like receivers are even more replaceable than top tier edge rusher guys, or even guys that maybe second tier like George Karlaftis could probably be by the time he's getting paid. I think he'll be like a second tier guy.
Tier 2 guy, yeah.
I think he could definitely be up for some money, and I think George is a guy you hold on to, especially guys like that come from good programs,
100% agree.
Who's proven himself to get better every single season statistically since he's been here. Those are guys that you love. Those are guys that that especially with Chris Jones being on the latter part of his career, and he'll be gone by that time that George is up for payment. So hopefully Felix becomes something. But this is a fun topic to even this will be a fun one to revisit for sure, because these 3 guys are going to be pivotal future players for this team. I do want to throw out a comment though from our guy Justin Orton real quick. He says I also I'm sorry about that one. That's not the one. It's this one here. Hey guys, got here late today. Is my son's Cooper's 6th birthday, so shout out to Cooper's.
Happy birthday, Cooper!
Cooper having his 6th birthday today. Shout out! It's a nice day, nice weekend to go out and do something for his birthday. So shout out to Dustin Orton and his son Cooper, man. Just wanted to get that out there.
And thanks for taking the time to be with us, man. Even on a big day like this, and hope that the family's doing good. I hope you guys are having fun. Had you guys plenty of cake. Hope you guys hope Cooper didn't get trolled like I did when I was 6. When my grandma decided to give me a big old bowl of ice cream. I don't know if I told this story on this show or not.
Hey, shout out to the Geminis, baby. Let's go.
But grandma gave me a bowl of ice cream, and I thought it was a big old bowl of vanilla ice cream, and that fucker was filled with butter.
Yeah.
Hope you guys didn't do that to Cooper today, because it traumatized me for life. Don't do that to Cooper. Shout out to Cooper. Happy birthday, big guy.
Or do it. It'll build character. I mean, post a podcast.
Dustin also, I think he added something else. He goes, I also normally wait for this. May have already answered. What is the ideal veteran right? Well, I think he says wide receiver. Mm-hmm. You want them to sign after signing Hardman. So I think the ideal guy right now is Chris Godwin. I don't think there's any debate about that. Like, as far as guys that are realistic.
Yeah, I mean,
you can expand about it, sure, because I've been talking about it ad nauseum. So,
well, I mean, if he is available and does become available, I think he's going to be a mid-season trade asset kind of guy, a guy that you can go after. I think a lot of
even training camp. You could see training camp.
That could definitely happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the Bucks have recently, drafted fairly high receivers the last couple drafts. So I think he is a guy that could be on the outs. A guy that has had issues staying healthy, but is a savvy veteran, a guy who's a championship caliber player, a guy that's proven would be an absolute killer in this offense. If you have him, and especially if Rasheed misses time, he's the perfect replacement because he's a very similar player. A solid body guy around the same size as Rasheed, a little bit more stacked than Rasheed is, a little more jacked than he is, a little heavier, but very good after the catch. Very savvy route runner. So I think he would be a seamless fit in this offense if Rasheed does miss time and if Rasheed comes back. That duo over the middle, moving those guys around, like that would just be, and with McColl in the mix, all that would be. I think it. As far as I know, that's the only guy that is of note that I think could become available before the season really gets going, or even in the middle of the season as far as trade acquisitions goes. He's definitely the target, top of the list. Obviously, top tier of the list is T. Higgins for me, because that's a guy that wants out of his situation. He wants to get paid, though, and we're not willing to do that. That's just a pipe dream for me. I continue to say that one. But I think... And
you'd have to give him a first-round pick.
Yeah, so... Chris Godwin tends to be the only one as of right now. There's always going to be names that kind of come free. We always talk about, man, the schedules. Teams tend to, say a Deontay Johnson becomes available or something like that from the Steelers.
There's also rumors about Jameson Williams.
Sure. Any one of those guys, man. I think any one of those guys would immediately come in and be better than most of the guys we have on this roster right now. So it's just a matter of those guys can stay healthy, because even with Godwin, he's had a lot of health issues over the years, but at the same time, when healthy, he is very deadly and very consistent. He's a championship caliber player. He's been there and he's done it. So I think that would be. I'm right there on par with you, man.
Wanted to give a shout out real quick to our guy Lonnie Pyramid.
Yep.
He checked in. Shout out to Lonnie. I'm glad you're back in with us, brother. Get us some questions if you got some, because now it is time for Speak It. I know we kind of already did it with Dustin, but now it's time to officially introduce Speak It. Sure, what do the people got for us?
All right, finally going to get to our guy Shaggy Shane, man. He had a question earlier on when the show very first started, so I wanted to keep that in the pocket here. But off the top rope, Shaggy Shane, look at the current wide receiver roster in its entirety. With Rashee Rice suspension looming, would you agree, as we stand today, that number one wide receiver on the roster is McCole Hardman?
Okay, let me first say this. I love how I get attacked on social media for talking so much about the wide receivers. But if I don't talk about it, what is brought up all the time on the show, Trevor?
Wide receivers.
Wide receiver.
McCole
so
Hardman,
you guys just understand why I bring up thoughts, because you guys are constantly bringing this stuff to me. I have to respond to it. And middle of the week, sometimes a thought or a take will come to me, and I drop it on our Facebook page or I drop it on Twitter, and people are like, dude, give it a rest.
What do you want to talk about?
You don't talk about the wide receivers again.
Talk about the kickers? What
you guys want to talk about it. So let's talk about it. Talk about it. And Shane, look, bud, I love you to death. You're my boy, and we do Arrowhead Allies together. If the Chiefs' number one wide receiver was McCole Hardman, this is the worst wide receiver room in the league, and it's not even close.
No offense to McCole.
And we love McCole here. But McCole Hardman is not even a wide receiver 3. McCole Hardman is comfortably a wide receiver 4. That's like right in his lane. Like good 4th, 5th option in an offense. Does, like I said, all the jet sweep motion stuff, the gimmicky cool things that Andy loves. Insanely effective red zone weapon. He has been. You can't even ignore that. Good deep threat when, occasionally throughout the season where he'll catch a 60-yard touchdown, because he's a burner. But he's not a good route runner. He doesn't have great hands. He's just not one of those top 3 options you want in an offense. And he's not going to be this year. I think McCole Hardman's going to be a solid wide receiver 4. I think if everything stays as is, let's say Rasheed's not suspended this year, which he will be, but let's say he's not, or at least for a long period of time. It is Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, because I think he's the best receiver on the team, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, then McCole Hardman. And you can even make a case for Nico Remigio, because I think that he's got better wide receiver skill sets than McCole Hardman does. If you go and watch some of his tape and you watch what he's done at camp, he just seems to have that it factor. I know we talk about him a lot for a guy that's done literally nothing in his career to this point, but I think that Nico Remigio could be a guy that people thought Justin Ross could be for this offense. What do I mean by that? Obviously, they're built differently. They got different skill sets. But I think from an effectiveness standpoint, you could get that out of Nico Remigio, where he could be a guy that gets you 520 yards and 4 touchdowns in a season. That's what you need from a guy like Nico Remigio. When it comes to McCole Hardman, you need him to make a big play on special teams. You need him to make a big burner play down the field on a 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, where they do a play action play, one of those RPO plays, and Patrick chucks it down the field, and you get a big chunk play for 44 yards. That's what McCole needs to be. And you're on the 9-yard line, and you do a jet sweep motion, and McCole is behind 𝚃𝙷𝙾𝙼, and he runs it in for the touchdown. That's the kind of stuff McCole's going to do. He's never going to be the number one option, even if Rashee is suspended and Hollywood Brown is injured. And I said, if that comes down to it, then this wide receiver room is the worst in the league, and Patrick Mahomes is going to have to go Super Saiyan mode for this team to have an offense, because that's about as bad as it gets. No offense to McColl, who I love.
Yeah, McColl is simply a package guy. They have certain packages from McColl and certain plays that happen that they use from McColl, specifically around the goal line, which has always been his specialty. He's always had an incredible nose for the end zone. For his size, he's always been incredible at finding the end zone and getting across the pylon. And he's got Pat's trust. So those things alone will give you a roster spot on this team. And let alone with his, which I think he will be used a lot for this, is the special teams prowess. I think punt returns, things like that. I think he's going to be very much involved with those things. He's got his packages, right? And I think the trust and the fact that they have packages in place for him, especially if we part ways with Kadarius Toney, who has a similar skill set, in my mind, a higher skill set as far as his pure athleticism goes, but similar plays. They can run similar plays for those guys, and they're both pretty good after the catch as well. They both have pretty good downfield speed. Package players. That's what those guys are, and I think that's why he's brought back. Obviously, him having the walk-off touchdown and the trust and the success that they've all had together in the postseason, winning multiple championships with this team. It makes no sense. Like I said, he is like a Randall Cobb to Aaron Rodgers, a similar kind of vibe. Maybe not to the degree that Randall Cobb was as importance-wise to Aaron Rodgers through his career, but just that camaraderie, that chemistry, that he's kind of one of the my guys. You know, he's been a part of this run for so long, and he's entrenched in this culture, and the city loves him, right? So I think it made too much sense for him to be here. But if he's the wide receiver one, I agree with you, Lance. We're in trouble if McColl is even looked at and has any kind of twinkle in the eye of the coaches that he might be our guy. No, that cannot happen. I think Hollywood Brown, it should be the wide receiver one this year, especially with the absence and the time that Rasheed is most likely going to miss. As far as talent goes, I think Rasheed is the prototypical wide receiver one, and will get the most work when healthy. But Hollywood Brown should absolutely be that guy this year. I think that's why he's here. He wants to have a big contract neck going into the following season. This is a prove-it year for him, so him having big numbers is very important to him this season. So I expect, statistically, Hollywood Brown to be the guy this season for sure, without question. Has to be, in my personal opinion. That's why we brought him here, is to bank off the mutual, compensation for both sides there. Him getting that contract and him being that number one guy for us and making another run at this third in a row here. So, great question though, man. No, McColl can't be the number one there. Love you, Shane. Thank you for the question, bud. Next one is from our guy Chase. Is Justin Watson the odd man out? We can ask that for like four guys on this team, right?
I honestly right now don't think so. And that's coming from me, a guy that's been trying to cut him for 2 years now.
He's safe in my opinion.
I think the only way Justin Watson is an odd man out is if the Chiefs go and get a solid difference-making veteran. A guy that's cut, a guy that the Chiefs want to trade for. If everything is as it is right now, Justin Watson's making this team. This team likes him, and he plays a role. Trust me when I say I don't like talking about it, because it drives me nuts that people get so enamored over a guy that gets 230 yards and 2 touchdowns a season.
We need the token white, bro.
Yeah, he's a
white guy. Yeah.
He's a white, and he's got he's a white receiver. But
he's got heart though, man. I'll give it to him.
Yeah,
I do like him, the person, for sure.
He's just so replaceable.
Yeah, he's a jag.
I've always said that. He doesn't do anything special. Like I said, he averages like 230 yards a season, like 2 touchdowns. Just absolutely a replaceable guy. But I think right now, as it stands, this room is so inept, and that after like number two, maybe Xavier Worthy does pan out, and then he becomes a legit, number 2 or number 1 in this offense. But I think that right now, just with nobody else to replace him, and the fact that outside of Rashee Rice, Justin Watson's the only one that's physically gifted. Like physically, he's 6'2", 205 pounds.
He's strong as shit. I'll give him that.
Big dude. He's a big receiver. So
he's got good hands.
And don't bring up Justin Ross, guys. Like I'm not here to entertain the whole Justin Ross thing anymore. The Chiefs had a bottom 2 wide receiver room last year, and he still couldn't become something in this offense.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So I'm just at this time, I'm kind of just putting him on the shelf, and better luck somewhere else, or whatever else you got. Maybe you go work for a car dealership or something. But I think that right now Justin Watson is very safe.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's safe, and you don't always need him to be. You don't always need everybody on your depth chart to be special. Sometimes you just need those Chris Conleys. That's kind of what he is in that role. He's kind of like that guy that can make you a nice catch every once in a while. Have a couple touchdown game out of nowhere, have a 12 target game out of nowhere. He's a consistent guy. What he is, he's a jag, but he's also. You kind of need jags on teams, though. You need those guys that kind of just are very consistent in what they do, very vanilla, and they're always going to be in their spots where they need to be, but they're never going to be like a special talent that kind of goes above and beyond and exceeds expectations. He's just kind of one of those guys. And I think all teams, if not every team, has those guys, and most teams, if not all teams, need those guys.
All right, real quick before you get to the next question, I see our guy Mike in Sweden had a take that I wanted to address. He just said, wide receiver 1 is whoever is open on that play.
No.
This team with Pat and Andy is not a team you can put a box like most teams. That second sentence I could not agree with more, because yes, you're right. Like, with the creativity and ability that Andy and Pat have together, you can't quantify it, nor can you put it in a box. You're right. The first line, though, I do disagree with. And the biggest reason why is because you saw what this offense was last season without a wide receiver 1. It was not good. They were struggling to score 20 points a game. I think they were 17th in scoring last season. You have prime Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, and you're in the bottom half in scoring. It's inexcusable. So I understand what you're trying to say, but you see that guys were open all season, and Patrick was hitting them, and they were dropping the ball because they're not a reliable asset.
They were open.
Yes, they just were not catching the football.
Yeah,
that's the point. Is that you can't oversimplify and say, well, it has to be the guy that's open. They are open, and I know you're saying it was a Super Bowl champ.
Yeah,
but guys, can we step back? I did this with our guy Brian B. Shinen from Hot 103 Jams. He's a co-host of mine on Arrowhead Allies on Tuesday nights.
This is why winning a Super Bowl last year was like the best and the worst thing a lot of times when it comes to narratives.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, guys, when you close your eyes and just think back of what ended up happening, like you just remember what happened in that final game, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Yeah, it feels good. And we all love it, and we all cherish it, and we don't take it lightly, right? Because that doesn't just happen every day. We all Chiefs fans know that for the majority of our lives, the Super Bowl's been the furthest thing from our reality. But if you go ahead and remember the whole season and how they got there, it wasn't that simple. In fact, it was the opposite of simple. It was the most fucking difficult run I think I've ever seen a team have to win a Super Bowl.
Not every Super Bowl victory is created equal, man.
Guys, look, again, this team struggled to score 20 points a game because of the fact that they did not have, outside of a 34-year-old Travis Kelce, a single guy that could catch the ball for the first 2 months of the season.
Yeah.
And then Rashee Rice emerged, but Rashee Rice was doing nothing but shallow crossers and yak yards. That's not stuff that you can every single week just rely on because defenses can defend that. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce had to go God mode in the playoffs on the road, and this defense played at an historic level. I just got done talking to Justin Reed this week on Arrowhead Allies, and I asked him this question. I should have clipped it, and I'll do it next week then. We'll talk about it then. But I brought this up to Justin Reed. I said, man, I know that, you've been with the team 2 years. You guys have won 2 Super Bowls. But I know that you would agree with me when I say those 2 experiences were complete polar opposites. Because the first time you guys won, your offense was the most explosive offense in the league, finished top of the league. Patrick Mahomes won on MVP. Defense was right in the middle of the league at 16 overall.
Yeah.
The second time around, what happens? The offense goes into the clunker, and the defense plays it at an historic level. I know for you defensive guys, that was a fun year. But from a fan's perspective, it was not fun. And I know that a lot of you guys want to just oversimplify and say, well, we won the Super Bowl, who cares? Guys, you can't sit here and pretend as if last season was the same as what it was in 2022 when the Chiefs were scoring 28, 30 points a game.
Yeah.
It was not the same.
Yeah.
And what was the difference, Trevor? They had Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to say this too, and to Mike, and shout out Mike for being in the chat, man. I appreciate you, bro. You make the content what it is. I appreciate you guys being here. But into the first segment of his statement there, the Chiefs agree with us because the Chiefs went and got Hollywood Brown, and then they drafted a receiver with their first pick in the NFL draft. They disagree with you. The wide receiver 1 is whoever is open on that play. It's not. I mean, it's not true. If we were playing, if this was a one-play game and that was it, if you don't score, you don't win. Cool. Like whoever's open and whoever caught the ball, that matters the most. This is a play in, play out. Who gets the most volume? Who's your go-to guy? Who you can depend on the most outside of Travis Kelce, obviously. The Chiefs agree that we need massive help because they went and got a veteran, and they're probably going to still bring someone else in at some point this season. And then went and drafted our first pick overall, went and got Xavier Worthy.
And then they allegedly trade.
So they know that we need help.
They allegedly tried to trade for DK Metcalf.
Right.
And over the last 3 drafts, They've drafted a wide receiver within the first 2 rounds.
And they're still desperately holding on to Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore, hoping that they have something in those guys so they can develop into something. Those are things that they understand. They don't want to go through what we went through last year, because what they went through last year doesn't usually happen, and it takes an all-world talent at quarterback to overcome those things.
The Chiefs don't win the Super Bowl with any other quarterback in the NFL.
Facts. That's just, it is what it is. So for us to want to go through that again, it's a silly narrative, in my opinion. Just because it worked once doesn't mean it's going to work again. Nothing in life works that way.
Right.
You got to constantly adjust with whatever is going on in life. You roll with the punches. We made it work last year, but that's just not, expecting that to happen again is just not fair to anyone that's working for this every year. So yeah, that's all I have for that one. Let's get back to our questions here though, real quick. Micah Hayes, sup guys? Any info on Tony missing the OTAs?
There's been nothing.
Been tight-lipped, man. I have no idea what's going on. That's my guy. I haven't heard anything. He's been quiet social media-wise, and not much from him. Honestly, I have no idea. I don't know if there's been an excuse to why he's not. I mean, you don't necessarily need an excuse because it's voluntary, but him not being there is a bad look, in my opinion.
And it's where minicamp start this next week.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. I'm hoping if he doesn't show up, then I'm gonna be honest. I'm a cape. I have a cape on for him every time. I'm always trying to defend him. I cape for him constantly. But if he doesn't show up to mandatories, outside of some massive excuse, family, death in the family, or something like that, he needs to be there for a family or something like that. I'm going to be quickly getting over.
I'm going to throw that cape in the fucking fire.
Yeah, I'll burn it myself and I'll stream it live. But yeah, I don't. He's got to be there for mandatories. That's all I know. But as far as what's going on right now, man, there's been nothing. There's been no reports in the Chiefs. Granted, at the same time, there's never really reports on why someone's not at the voluntary camp. That's never really been, unless it's like Travis Kelce or something like that. That's more of a talking point. But yeah,
the reason why it's
nothing, man.
The reason why it's notable that Kadarius Toney wasn't at voluntary camp is the fact that he needs every practice possible. Yeah. That's what I talked about last week about how
he'd probably be a healthy scratch at those practices, anyways.
Well, that's why I'm just sitting here going, what are we doing? What are we even doing anymore? We're just like prolonging the inevitable of him not being on this team, in my opinion, because you just brought back 𝚁𝙁 Hardman, who has the skill set that Kadarius Toney has. They do the same stuff, only 𝚁𝙁's more consistent and more reliable. So I don't know what Kadarius Toney serves a purpose on this team for. He doesn't. He was touted as a wide receiver 1 going into last season. Dude wasn't a wide receiver 5 last season. Yeah. He had 171 yards last year, man, and played 15 games? That's insanely horrible. And I'm not here to tack on. I'm just saying, when you have an opportunity to say, you know what? I'm going to be at every camp. I'm going to be at every practice. I'm going to show, because Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes were at half the voluntary OTA stuff. Yeah. They don't have to be there, but they do that for what? Good publicity, good optics for the young guys. Hey, the 2 most important pieces of this team are here. We better take this shit seriously.
Only silver lining I'll say in this, I do believe Kadarius Toney was out there in Texas practicing with Patrick Mahomes and the fellas. So I mean that's a good thing. But being around the entire team is important, and being around your coaches and everything is even that much more important. So I really don't understand the absence or why the absence is occurring. I mean, I don't know if he has something personal going on. Who knows? But I mean, the guy, if he doesn't show up to mandatories, then I'm pretty close to being done with him, to be honest with you. Next one from our guy Micah Hayes, a follow-up question. Do you like the Kansas Dome Stadium proposal? Whether fans like it or not, the future of stadiums are domes or retractable roofs and host events year-round and a Super Bowl. Green Bay and Buffalo will stay open.
You just explained why I love it, Micah.
Yes,
because
sir.
of the fact that the Chiefs, they're going to have a stadium that's going to bring so much more attractions than they could ever dream of at Arrowhead. Arrowhead has a limited ability to have concerts and all kinds of other events because it's an open-air stadium in the Midwest, where it snows 5 months out of the year, and it's hot as shit in the other 6-7 months of the year. So you have a dome stadium in the Midwest, you can literally do whatever you want whenever you want to. You can have all the concerts you want. I mean, why do you think the T-Mobile Center is such a big hit in Kansas City? Because you're doing all these events that you couldn't do 15 years ago before T-Mobile Center was dropped into the middle of downtown. It was a huge asset for this city and building the revenue. And so, yeah, man, you think Clark Hunt, you bet your ass Kansas and Clark Hunt are going to welcome that shit to get a retractable roof or a dome. I don't care which one it is. I just love the idea of that becoming an attraction center where you have all the big shows, all the heavy hitters. You have your Coldplays and Taylor Swifts and all the big time. And I don't know who all the popular music is today. I listen to certain music that doesn't matter. But the point is, all the heavy hitters can do that. You can have the freaking draft here again. You can have the freaking combines.
Tournament.
I mean, you can have all the NCAA tournament. Thank you. Super Bowls. Hello. You can do all kinds of shit here, man. That's going to just generate millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars of revenue to the city and to the team. So, yeah, 100% welcome it, man. And you're talking about other opportunities to gamble. If it's something that you can do live betting on, whatever the case is, Kansas has legal gambling.
Yes, we do.
So, by God, bring it on, dude. Give me a dome stadium. Give me a retractable roof. Give me whatever they can get us. Because at this point, man, look, I love tradition and I love the feeling of Arrowhead and all that stuff. But guys, that stadium is archaic. It makes no sense to move across the state line and out of that stadium to just have more of the same. You got to go and get new. You got to be modernized a little bit, and I think it's time for the Chiefs to do that. They sure as hell won't change their jerseys. You might as well change your stadium.
Yeah, I mean, this comes with success, man. Like why would we not want a new stadium for Patrick Mahomes to establish a winning culture here in Kansas City, in a new stadium that's kind of become his own. He can kind of trailblaze this new stadium and this new movement, with a retractable roof. And if we do. What if we have a Tampa Bay Super Bowl situation where they can win one in their own stadium?
Well, that'd feel nice.
How incredible would that be for this city? Man?
That'd be justice too.
You know what I mean? Yeah, something like that. Like if we can host a Super Bowl and we're in it, that'd be one of the coolest things to ever experience. I know Tampa Bay fans, they got to experience it. That's an incredible moment for them as fans. That'd be something fun for me to experience for sure. But I think protecting our investment in Patrick Mahomes as much as possible. I mean, I know he loves the snow games. I'm not gonna act like he doesn't. But I mean, rebranding a little bit and if we're wanting to, and then we all know that the Clark family wants to have Super Bowls. We're going to get the World Cup and all these things like that. It makes too much sense not to have a bigger stadium with the dome or even a retractable roof. Retractable roof would, I think, be the ideal thing. Having open events would be fun as well.
Sure.
So, concerts and things like that would be fun to have outdoors sometimes, depending on the weather. But yeah, man, protecting our guys from the inclement weather we had, especially this past season, we saw with that Dolphins game. That's something you want to avoid when it's that drastic.
Drew Brees doesn't play for 18 seasons if he didn't play in a dome and play in that division where there's a bunch of domes in that division.
And as long as we can have real grass too, that's a main thing.
Peyton Manning doesn't play for 17 seasons unless he played over half his career in a dome.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady doesn't play till 45. He didn't play his last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
In a warm environment that also has dome stadiums and road games in your own division.
As much as Pat loves these snow and these rainy games and these grimy games in the outdoors, the more he ages, the more he's going to dislike these, because the more it's going to put him at risk. And yeah, I mean, it's fun because his body is very durable right now, obviously. But yeah, I mean, shout out to Bobby Stroop for keeping our guy durable.
Thanks, Bob.
But yeah, man, the more he ages, the more I think fans and Patrick Mahomes in his own personal life would like to protect his body as much as possible. And I think getting a dome and playing in an indoor environment more than not is one of those moves. Lonnie Pyramid. We have a large wide receiver room. This is like a wide receiver podcast. What do you know? It's like it's talking to town for some reason. We have a large wide receiver room. Do you think it's going to be difficult to sort through?
No, because there's not a lot of good receivers on this team.
Yeah. When Remigio is rising to the top, as far as the talking's going, I mean, I think it shows that.
Yeah, I already
I
told you guys what as it currently stands, what wide receiver room I think that they should keep. And as it stands, in my opinion, it should be Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Mecole Hardman, Nico Remigio, and Justin Watson. I think that's their best possible wide receiver room as currently constructed. I don't think that Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney serve a purpose on this team now that Mecole Hardman's back, and I believe in Nico Remigio. I think Nico Remigio should take the snaps from Sky Moore, and I think Mecole Hardman will take the snaps from Kadarius Toney. That's my opinion. Justin Watson fits because he's a big physical receiver with the inevitable suspension that comes down from Rashee Rice. The Chiefs are going to need that 6-foot+ receiver because everybody else that I just listed off is under 6 foot tall. So I think that Hollywood Brown, obviously being that high-end wide receiver 2, he's still undersized. He's 5'9", about 180 pounds. So everybody else is going to be small. They're going to need a guy, and I think Justin Watson makes the team because of that fact alone. But everybody else that I listed off, I think they're going to keep 6 receivers this year. I do not think they're going to keep 7 because keeping 7 was a waste of time last year because there were not 7 guys on this team that deserved to be on this team at that position. There were about 2.
2 of those 7 were healthy scratches going.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So yeah. Dustin Orton. I also normally wait for this may have already been answered.
We already got to this one, remember?
Did we? Oh yeah. Who was
Yeah,
oh
it was
yeah.
the first question we answered.
Got
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
I got
That's-
you. Yeah.
that's my
So
fault.
it was Chris Godwin. Right. Okay.
That's my fault.
No, you're good. Next one. Let's see. Our guy Mike in Sweden. How much is the new kickoff rules changing? Going to change the game?
It's going to change.
Not just for the Chiefs, but for the league in general. And which team has the best chance to figure it out first?
I don't know about the figuring it out first part. I think that comes down to just, I think whoever has the best coaching staffs with guys that get guys to pay attention, that's going to be who it is. So expect like the best teams to get it down first. I expect the Chiefs, Niners, teams like that to have it down pretty quickly. But I do think it's going to change things drastically because it's going to basically make you choose. Are you going to be aggressive or are you just going to just submit to the 35-yard line like they do in the UFL? Which is fine if you really want to give them that kind of yardage. But if I'm the Chiefs, I'm like, fuck you, man. We're going to try to pin you back. We're going to try to kick it all the way, as high as possible and try to get you down to the 5-10 yard line. So it's good. I think it's a great thing because what it does is it establishes the return again. It's no more just, hey, Harrison Butker, just kick the living shit out of the football, put it in the back of the end zone, and there's nothing. No, now you have to make a real choice. Do we let them try to return the ball, or do we give them some incredible field position? I like it because I think you're going to be surprised how many teams are going to try to allow these teams to make kick returns. And the kick return for a touchdown is one of the most exciting plays in the NFL. And if it returns and it legitimately becomes something like that again, then you might see a reemergence of having that star come about on a team. You remember the days when we were kids, we used to watch Dante Hall. Mm-hmm. Devin Hester,
man. Yeah.
Like, we got to see these guys make careers out of this.
Or even early Tyreek Hill.
Yeah,
His chops going that way.
You get a guy that can make a career being this dude. Yeah. All of a sudden, you have the folklore reemerge of kick returners. That's dead in the water right now, and the NFL knew it, so they made a good choice. Copied what the UFL's been doing, and I think it's going to work. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be exciting because teams are not going to want to just line up on the 35-yard line. They're not going to be like, oh, yeah, just take that. They're not going to want that. They're going to want to take the risk now. And maybe there will be more injuries, but guys, with football comes injuries. I hate to say it. I'm not trying to sound calloused or heartless, but that is a part of what this game is. It's a violent collision sport. It's not a contact sport. It's a collision sport. That's different. And it's going to happen. So hopefully not a ton of injuries, but they're going to come whether they do this or stick with what's already been going down, guys. It doesn't matter.
Great. Thanks, Mike, for the question.
Yeah.
Ruben DeCruz, how much would that cost us, guys, for Godwin? How much would Godwin cost us?
Well, it depends on if it's a trade or a cut. If he was cut, the Chiefs could probably get him for no more than $10 million. Because what Chris Godwin would do if he came to Kansas City is basically just try to get himself another big contract in 2025 because he's a free agent in 2025 anyway.
Yeah.
If the Chiefs were to trade for him, I think he has a $20 million cap hit. This is where I talk about the restructures of like a Jawan Taylor opening up an additional $10 million for the Chiefs. You extend Creed Humphrey or Trey Smith or Harrison Butker dropping their cap hits this year. That would give them more money this year to flirt with as well. So the Chiefs, it'd be hefty to trade for Chris Godwin based on dead cap on what you'd have to pay him. I don't think they'd have to give up a ton though in draft capital. I think they can get him for that Titans 3rd round pick. I really do. 29-year-old receiver that is going to be a free agent anyway. I think the Buccaneers would take that 3rd round pick because that 3rd round pick could end up being like a top 90 pick in the draft.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think more than anything, it's going to be, hey, can the Chiefs afford it in a dead cap situation? I do believe they would figure that out.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. James T. Kirk, realistically, why do the guys at All Chiefed Up, shout out All Chiefed Up, what do they see in Sky Moore? Because I don't see it.
Well, first of all, I want them to defend themselves. I don't want to speak for Mike and Steven, but I know it's been mostly Mike on this one. He's been on our show. I would highly recommend you ask them this question for themselves in their chat so they can answer it to you. But what I've taken from what Mike has said is Mike believes, and it is fair, Sky was used differently in college than he is in the NFL.
Yep.
And that is true. But see, I think a lot of times guys like Sky Moore, a 2nd round pick and beyond, teams draft them because they think they can turn them into something that they may not be at that time. When you're a 1st round pick, like you look at Xavier Worthy, the Chiefs are not going to try to change him as a player. They know what he is.
They took him for what he is.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like he's a game-breaking type of player.
He runs so fast.
Sky Moore wasn't a game-breaking type of player. He was a second-round pick. There's a significant difference between the first and a second-round pick at that position, especially. So they were like, we can turn this guy into something else. We think he can do that, and he hasn't done that. I think that Mike and Steve in particular, what they're saying it all chiefed up is the Chiefs need to utilize Sky Moore to his collegiate skill set, and that he would be a better player in that regard. So I think that they haven't given up on him in that regard because they think that there's still a chance the Chiefs could finally give in and say, all right, let's do that. And if they do, then Sky Moore could turn into something promising. The reason I don't believe that's the case is because I think the Chiefs had a plan for Sky Moore. It didn't work, and he's not improving in any regard. So therefore, I think the Chiefs have just slowly come to this realization they may have whiffed it at the second-round pick, and I think that's why you're going to probably see Sky Moore either not on this team this year or surely not on the team in 2025.
Well, I mean, what I think is going on over there, all cheaped up, they have there's some kind of agreement. I think they know Sky on a personal level, so they're getting paid off somehow. No, I'm just kidding. I'm still a believer in Kadarius Toney, so I mean, I deserve my 9 lashings more than those guys deserve for Sky Moore. I think Sky Moore has more promise at this point than Kadarius does because Kadarius doesn't even want to show up to mandatory or not mandatory, but the OTAs and all that. So I mean, being around the team is important, and he's not even there for that. So I'll give Scott Moore that credit. He's been around everywhere he's possibly could be a part of something. He's been a part of it, so he's wanting to learn. I think it's a combination of the two things with Sky Moore, though. I'm not going to say he's dumb by any means. I just think there's maybe a bit of a learning curve for him because it's been a lot of the issues he's had have not been the dropsies. It's been more of a timing thing with him with Patrick Mahomes. And him running the wrong route and thinking one play is one play and it's not, right? And he's been off on his timing and breaking routes and things like that. I think we really wanted him to become a slot guy for us, and it just has not worked out. His timing just hasn't been there with Pat, and I think there's been a couple occasions where Pat was a little off on certain things with him as well. So there's just been a chemistry issue, I think, with him and Pat. I think that's been the main thing. It's just him not getting the plays down, him not getting things maybe memorized. Breaking the routes at the right time. Like I said, I think there's just certain things that go into it more than just him not being good,
right? Or
him not being a good athlete. I think he has a lot of the intangibles. It's putting the tangibles together on the field and really executing plays has been his biggest thing. Yeah. I think he's got great hands. I really do. I think he's got good hands. He's got really big hands for his size. And I think he could be a solid player. It's just, can he put it together? Some guys, man, they don't translate to the NFL well. Some guys just don't, and they look really good. He was the best in his draft against the cover two, as far as statistically. Granted, he wasn't playing against a lot of the certain schools that other guys like Clemson and the other bigger schools that the other guys played at. He played against that kind of competition on the regular. So there's that too. Some of those guys come from smaller schools, don't translate to the league, and there's more of a upside pick for the Chiefs, and it just hasn't really panned out. Hopefully, man, I hope he takes off this year, and that just gives us another chance to have another guy that, it wouldn't be a non-expensive guy at this point, and to extend him if he really takes off this year, or use him as trade bait if he has a big year, something like that. I hope it works out for him in the NFL. I really do. I like Sky the person. I'm just hoping I can like Sky the player. Next one from our guy, James T. Kirk. What's Creed and Trey's worth on the open market next season? They're going to be...
I don't think they're going to be on the open market. That's the point. If you're to ask me what I think their value is, period, I think that... I put out a projection of what I think Creed Humphrey is going to get paid. I think the Chiefs are going to pay him anywhere from $15 to $16 million a year. I know that's heavy for centers, but the market is going up, and we know that I think Jason Kelsey's last deal he got $13 million. So I think it's going to be a little bit more than that because Creed Humphrey is a lot younger. I think Creed Humphrey right now is probably the best center in football. So I'm looking at anywhere from $15 to $16 million a year over like a 3-4 year deal. We can talk about the guaranteed dollars at another time, but I think Trey Smith, you're looking at anywhere from 11 to 13. Guard markets are going up as well. He's one of the best in the league, and I think that you're going to see probably I believe both those guys are going to get paid by the Chiefs because they want to keep those guys together.
Really hope so.
They're both in their mid-20s. They've played every single game of their careers together. They took over those positions day one at training camp and never looked back in their rookie seasons. I just have a hard time believing it. And like I said, with the value of having two guys like that at their ages, the way they play, the chemistry they have, I think you can get them both for less than $30 million per year between them both. I think that's what you're probably looking at right now.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Real quick, our guy, I just wanted to put this comment out here because our guy Eric McKenzie loves to let me know when I make a mistake or whatever. Derek White leads all guards and blocks the last 2 seasons. He does things that are special. Bad comparison. Okay, when you're talking about guards and blocks, that's not something that I think is. Block shots, and you're being great at block shots is being a Dikembe Mutombo or a Dwight Howard or Anthony Davis or a Wembanyama. Like
for a guard, I mean, he's not D Wade.
Yes.
When D Wade was doing it all while also being arguably the best scorer in basketball, that was a whole different thing. He was special.
I think what Eric's doing is just once again choosing to not to hear a portion of what I was saying. If you want to think it's a bad comparison, fine. My point, what I was trying to say was the potential of a Nico Remigio in this offense is a guy that, and again, inter sports comparisons are bad, so maybe I shouldn't even have done it.
Yeah.
The point I'm trying to make, and I think everybody else was understanding what I was trying to say, was that guys like Derek White are glue guys.
They're
right?
They're not special, but they're always a positive impact on the team.
Congratulations on Derek White leading guards and blocks for the last 2 years. I don't care.
He's not a star player by any means.
He's not a star player. Thank you, Trevor. I was saying he was a glue guy. Thank you. So, thank you, Eric.
No, I mean, Derek White is a guy that every team can use. He's a guy that, I mean, shout out Derek White, man. Celtics, let's see what they can do this game tonight. Let's go Mavs, though.
Yeah, we'll see.
James T. Kirk. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'll just go with James. This is our last question. I do have a John Harrison follow-up about the Godwin info, because the mathematician, John Harrison, is always in the chat. The Clown Bayless actually said Jim Harbaugh is now the best NFL head coach over Andy Reid. How would you honestly feel once his contract has expired and he's not on the air any longer?
You know, I've often thought about that. I'll be totally honest with you guys about like
Harbaugh,
what a great day it'll be when Skip's gone, because I do believe that sports media in itself just naturally will be better without him.
Well, a lot of the casuals will fall off.
Yes,
for at least a little while until somebody else resurfaces.
But here's the problem, though, guys. Skip Bayless has done irreconcilable damage to sports media. He's created this monster that is now in just full tilt, to where it's no longer about the highlights. It's no longer about the. And I'm not even. Look, we're on a show. Our show's opinion is an opinion show. So in a way, he's influenced these types of shows as well, but mostly the negative side of things, where it's all about, crushing greatness, downplaying certain greatness, and then trying to control the narrative with these false ideas and falsehoods that you're telling half-truths constantly to try to prove your point.
Forced contrarianism.
That now he's created like this generation of people that are going to just try to become the next him, that even when you cut that head off, another head grows. So, although, yes, it'll be a great day to be celebrated when he does finally inevitably step down, or Fox says, hey, we're not renewing your contract, whatever the case is, but the damage has already been done. And I just don't know. I don't know how we get back to the days of when it was, let's acknowledge greatness. Let's not try to downplay it so much, because I think that we're just too far gone. Because now his former cohort, Stephen A. Smith, the biggest name in all of sports media, is now, I don't care what anybody says, he's on the MJ payroll. Guys like Michael Wilbon, Stephen A. Smith, they're on the Michael Jordan payroll, where now their job is to just try and downplay. There was I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but hear me out real quick. There was this conversation that was had this week, Trevor, I don't know if you saw it, where Stephen A. Smith was literally trying to say that Dwayne Wade was the reason why, or he taught LeBron how to win.
That's been rhetoric for a while.
But he's re-emphasizing it. Yeah. And so
he's always kind of recycled.
Why that's an absolute lie is that before LeBron ever went to Miami, LeBron won 8 playoff series.
Yeah.
Went to a finals at 22 years old with one of the most horrendous teams ever. And you're telling me that Dwayne Wade taught LeBron how to win, when before LeBron got to Miami, the previous 2 years in Miami, the Heat had a losing record. Mm-hmm. So they missed the playoffs the year before LeBron even got there. So,
and the last time Dwayne Wade was a winner is when he still had a very ridiculously good Shaq.
Yes,
coming from
and Pat Riley was his head coach.
Yeah, so that's
no offense to Eric Spoelstra, but Pat Riley is one of the greatest ever.
Dwayne Wade just happened to land in a much better spot than Cleveland.
And here's the other, here's the other point, real quick, and we'll move on. I promise. Yeah. Is we hear all these things being said about, he had to learn how to win and he had to go and team up with other guys. Guys, if you want to make the MJ comparison, before Scottie Pippen was the teammate of Michael Jordan's, and after, when Scottie was no longer Michael's teammate, Michael Jordan had a losing record both in the regular season and in the postseason. In fact,
swept multiple times in the first round.
In fact, Michael Jordan had a 1-9 postseason record without Scottie Pippen in his career. Didn't win a single playoff series. So if we're going by this logic, that means that Scottie Pippen taught MJ how to win also, even though he was the younger player that had to come along years down the road. So we can't have it. You can't have it one way and not the other way. But see, Stephen A. and other guys like that are on the payroll won't talk about these things because the coincidences of Michael Jordan approving the Last Dance special the day of the Cleveland Cavaliers parade in 2016 after coming down from 3-1 against the 73-9 Warriors. We all know what this is about. It's all about controlling the narrative, and that's where I circle back to guys like Skip Bayless, who they want to control the narrative. We have a generation of people that hate LeBron James for literally no reason. They have no idea why they actually hate him. I've asked a friend, Trevor and I know him very well. He actually used to be a co-host of the show. I asked him straight up to his face, why do you hate LeBron James? He didn't have an answer. Because he doesn't really know.
There's a club. And there's a LeBron hating club.
I'm not trying to diss people, but I'm being real here for a second. You don't really know what it is because there's nothing actually there. You just hear these clowns say this stuff on TV, and you just attach yourself to it because it's easier to do that than to think for yourself. That's the problem we face in this society, and Skip Bayless and guys like him have helped usher that into our society.
Yeah, and I don't want to hear that's the same way people hated Tom Brady because he was great. It has not. People hated Tom Brady. I myself did not like Tom Brady because of the cheating scandals and just because a lot of more reasons to go into to why you can dislike Tom Brady than LeBron James. If you don't like his political stances, cool. That's separate to how great he is at the sport that he plays and the reason we all recognize him.
Sure.
For what we recognize him as an individual, as a sports player, as an athlete, those are the reasons why you should like or dislike him. If you don't think he's good, please plead your case. You'll fall flat on that one every time, but okay. And yes, back to the original question from James T. Kirk. The nonsense rhetoric from Skip Bayless about Harbaugh being the better coach is just, this is, like I said, this is just forced devil's advocate. This is forced just trying to be edgy. That's all. This is his whole shtick has always been this, and he leans into it, and sometimes he believes his own bullshit, but it's bullshit nonetheless. This is what he's made a career out of, and he gets ratings, and a lot of the casuals will die off once he's gone off his platform. So.
I was wrong about one thing real quick. Chief Kelsey did point it out. I was saying 35. It's actually the 30-yard line. I do apologize when it comes to the touchbacks. Regardless, though, guys, the 30-yard line is not somewhere you want your opponent to start off their drive. Your goal is to get it to the 20 or further back. So you're letting them start off at the 30. That's still some significant field position. So yeah, you're right. I said 35. I meant the 30. I apologize for that. Also, to keep myself accountable, our guy John Harrison also corrected me from last week when we were talking about 𝚃𝙷𝙾𝙼 𝚃𝙃 and how the dead money, there would be no dead money. What I meant by that is actually it's funny when you say something but you actually meant it in a different way, but you're not saying it clearly. If they were to trade 𝚃𝙃 𝚃𝙃, the Chiefs would have no dead cap money.
Right.
The $2.5 million would go with the trade. If they were to cut 𝚃𝙃 𝚃𝙃, the $2.5 million in dead cap stays. That is my fault. John Harrison did point that out last week. That is actually what I was talking about. I didn't specify the trade part, but that's what, because if you notice my wish list, I have the Chiefs trading 𝚃𝙃 𝚃𝙃. I have them cutting him. I have them trading him because that's when I thought the dead cap would be gone. So when we talked about it last week, it went all different places. But that's just to keep myself accountable here, so you guys know.
That's what the chat's here for, is keep Lance honest, because we all know he's full of shit.
Yes.
These are not questions, but from our guy John Harrison also about the Godwin move and possibility of that being a reality. Just numbers wise, he crunches it a little bit. If Tampa cut Godwin, they save $18.5 million, which is his base salary this year. Their dead hit is $9 million, which is signing and roster bonus. They might cut him. Follow up. Tampa does currently have $9.8 million in cap space. They aren't over, so they might not cut Godwin unless he's pissed off. We'll see. He could definitely demand a trade or something like that, or demand who knows.
Yeah.
But I don't think they cut him, honestly. I think the trade does need to happen, because I think it'd be silly for them just to cut him, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, and especially they're not, who knows what their season's going to look like. I do believe in Baker. I thought they ended on a high note, especially winning the division last year. A lot of things could happen.
A lot of positives.
That division's still up for grabs. Yeah. So if they're in the lead, they may not want to dump him, keep him in there as depth, even as expensive as he might be. Yeah. So and if say he gets hurt, who knows, man? They're not going to be able to trade him for much. Chiefs could probably get him for pennies if he's a little banged up. Who knows if we want to go after him, even if he is banged up. But there's so much in flux.
We were talking about Skip so much that I didn't even address the question or the take that he had. because it's just, look, Jim Harbaugh is a great coach. I compared him on Arrowhead Allies a couple weeks ago to Larry Brown.
Yeah.
He's a guy that I think can win at all levels. But if you're going to sit here and tell me that a guy that's been out of the NFL for well over a decade is the best head coach in the league, you're Skip Bayless. You're just trying to get reactions out of people. Just like when he says, I still think Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in football. Dude, look, this isn't even about Patrick Mahomes. Keep Patrick Mahomes out of the conversation. Dude, Joe Burrow has been more of an injury-prone player than an elite quarterback in this league. Yes, they had the Super Bowl run, but that had more to do with the Chiefs choking in the AFC Championship than it had to do with Joe Burrow playing great football. Because if you watch the way Joe Burrow played in that playoff run, he was not great.
Yeah.
He wasn't.
His second best option is demanding a trade to get out of playing with Joe.
Joe Burrow did not have one single great game in that postseason run. And the only touchdown he threw in the Super Bowl was T. Higgins taking Jalen Ramsey by the face mask and throwing him and then not throwing a flag on it.
And he's yet to throw a fourth quarter touchdown in the postseason his whole career.
You know what I'm saying? Like
that's madness.
If
bro.
you want to sit here and say that it's ridiculous to say any other. If I'm bringing back Patrick Mahomes in the conversation, it's ridiculous to say anybody else is the best quarterback in the league than him because he's done more than anybody else has over the last 5-6 years.
You immediately discredit yourself.
Yes, but Joe Burrow, I'm sorry, man. Does he have the talent to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league? Yes.
Oh, for sure.
But he's hurt all the time. And like Trevor just said, in the postseason when it matters most, he has not shined bright.
Yeah.
He had that one, like I said, that moment, but again, it was the Chiefs melting down.
It took Patrick Mahomes having the worst second half of his career. Yeah.
Come on, man. There's context. But that's what I'm saying. When it comes to guys like Skip, the context doesn't matter. Because he'll have his guys on the panel providing him context, and he just goes.
But then again, what does he got? Stats? Because I thought he was a rings guy. I thought Skips was a rings guy. Right? Don't rings? Isn't rings the only argument you need?
Yeah. Bill Russell the GOAT.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's strange. All right, man. Well, I think that is it for all of our questions, bro. I appreciate the chat. Bro. You guys have been awesome today.
That was a workout. Thank you guys so much for the chat, man. Yeah, every week it's great, and it's cool too because this is the off season, and you guys want to just really lean in. I love it. I mean, you guys are really bringing it to us, man, and I appreciate that because there's not much to talk about right now. We come up with some cool concepts and things like that, and you guys just continue to rally with us. So thank you guys so much for doing that in early June. We promise that this is going to only get better as the season draws closer, and we have real football to talk about. Well, that'll be here in no time. We promise, guys. It'll fly by.
Can't wait.
Trevor, we have one more order of business to get to. What is it called? Hold this L. Each and every episode, we give out a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's are friendly L's or not so friendly L's in the world of sports, we promise you, who's ever holding those L's in the world of sports deserve those L's in the world of sports. Trevor Twidwell, who's holding out for you this week?
Speaking of the world of sports, man, never did I ever think that this would be the topic that I'd be talking about on my L, but the WNBA has been in the headlines for probably last several months at this point now because of one Caitlin Clark, and for better or for worse, right? But it was just announced, I believe, yesterday about the Team USA cuts, or who made the cut for the Team USA, the Olympic, Paris Olympics for the women. And I'm just going to read this here. Caitlin Clark has been on and off the news for her outstanding contribution to the sport since her days in Iowa. Her brilliance on the hardwood made many fans who followed her to the WNBA expect the point guard to achieve bigger feats. As the 2024 Paris Olympics is approaching, hoop enthusiasts expected her name to be in the women's basketball team, but shockingly, she wouldn't even be considered for it. As Shams Charania of The Athletic reports, Clark will miss the opportunity to be among the talented women's basketball athletes who will represent the Team USA on the Olympic stage this year. The star players who will be reportedly added to the roster are Liberty's Sabrina Ionescu and Brianna Stewart, Ace's teammate Kelsey Plum, Chelsea Gray, Aja Wilson, Jackie Young, Mercury Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, and Kalia Cooper, Lynx Nafisia Kalir, Storm's Jewel Lloyd, and Suns Alyssa Thomas. Clark has just stepped foot into the league and still has a long way to go, whereas the above-mentioned players have proved their worth consistently game after game. All right. This is an issue for me because what sports, a massive thing in sports is marketing to your best players. The NBA does this probably better than anybody, right? The NBA knows how to develop stars and utilize their stars and platform their stars. LeBron James and Stephen Curry seemingly barely involved in the postseason. Steph Curry missed it entirely. LeBron obviously had an early exit, and it was unfortunate. And for a long time, the NBA has depended on those two guys, and you could throw Kevin Durant in that mix as well, being those guys to kind of carry and garner views for the postseason. And the NBA seamlessly, once again, has found a way to develop new young stars. And this postseason, more on the West side of things, has been incredible with the Luka Doncic, the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Ant-Mans, all these young stars that have kept it afloat, and the ratings have been great, and the series have been great. And the NBA is incredible at doing that. And on top of that, the men's Olympic teams have always loaded with the biggest names typically in the sport, and they know how to market to that degree and get the best names on the backs of those jerseys. We've seen the Kobe Bryants, the Carmelo Anthonys, all these guys that have won, and LeBron James, obviously, all these guys that have won multiple, medals. And this is a big miss to me for the WNBA. I understand she's a rookie. I understand that. But this is regardless if anyone wants to hear this or not, the golden goose is already Caitlin Clark. What she's done for the WNBA, what she did for college women's sports in general is otherworldly. And it's not because she's this or she's that, or she's straight or she's white. It's none of that. She's an incredible basketball player. She's an electric player. She's a Steph Curry-esque type player, an electric shooter. And it's an exciting thing to watch. And she garnered more attention than any other female athlete that I've seen in my lifetime already. And, what she's done for the sport is incredible. And the hype that she's already brought to the WNBA, like I said, for better or for worse, regardless, it's collecting eyeballs more than ever on this sport. And the way I've had a ton of respect for a lot of others that have came and went through this, the WNBA. There's been a lot of great athletes and a lot of great all-time players over there. But what she's done attention-wise and what she's done as far as marketability is unmatched, in my opinion. And for them to leave her name off the list or to even they didn't even entertain it. She wasn't even extended any kind of conversation, nothing. And I think that's a big miss marketing-wise for the WNBA. And I think they really need to learn from and this may sound, sexist or whatever, but the NBA has done things right for a long time, and the brand of the NBA has been incredible for developing stars. And I think the WNBA could really take a page out of the book of what the NBA has done and really lead, rookie or not. This is your golden goose right now, and you're going to leave, not even entertain the fact that she can go play on an international stage to represent your brand. Right. And I think she's going to be one of the best players in the WNBA soon. I think she's already working on that resume. She just came off like a 36-8 game a couple nights ago. So we can talk about what she's done for the other players and that are involved in the league, and the extension of the pay and the contracts that are probably going to come with the golden goose that is Caitlin Clark right now for this sport and for these women. But I think for the branding reasons of the WNBA to not even entertain her to play for this country, for the WNBA or for the women's Olympic team is madness to me, marketing wise. So for that, the WNBA can do me a solid favor and hold this sale.
People come to me a lot in life. Give you guys a little bit of an insight of my daily routine or what happens in my life. People notice, hey, you got a lot of facial hair, man. Yeah, how do you keep that thing clean? And I'll give them a little quick synopsis of what I do. No MBDs.
Elevator pitch. How do you grow a beard?
Yeah, Trevor and I went to Island Fest a couple weekends ago and had a few Samoan dudes asking me that. I'm like, listen, man.
Shout out to the Polynesians, man. Love
y'all got the big muscular bodies and stuff. That's genetics, right? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, this is genetics too. You have to just kind of have it to to use to take care of it. And I promise I have a point to this story. So the biggest thing about having facial hair is keeping it clean. Biggest thing about having a lot of things and as a man is keeping yourself clean. You got to make sure that you keep things clean. I never thought, like Trevor just said earlier, I never thought that this would be something I would talk about, but this is something I have to talk about too. And for a family like the Kelceys to have so many W's in their life, one of them's getting a fat L today for me. And it's the guy that I think, because Trevor and I, it's funny because the New Heights podcast is so awesome. And it's funny because for years now, I've always told Trev that I think that Travis and Jason remind me of us, like from our relationship perspective, how we both are personality wise. I am more like Jason. Trevor's a little bit more like Travis. But this is where the differences begin between Jason and I, because as clean I like to keep myself physically, Jason doesn't see it the same way. So this is a tweet that he was talking in response to when it came to somebody that came up with, by the way, is a complete lie and myth. This person had a tweet that said something about there was research that the people, they took two polls, people that wash their feet every day and people that don't wash their feet every day, and the people that wash their feet every day had more bacteria. Well, luckily Community Notes came out and debunked this. It's actually not true at all. Shocker, I'm sure. But that didn't stop Jason Kelce from dropping this little tidbit on Twitter. Now, we know Jason Kelce likes to kid, but this is what he said on here, Trevor. We can put that on the screen. So, Jason Kelce, all of you have been fed diabolical lies that washing every crevice of your body and hair all the time is somehow better or healthier. Any dermatologist not in bed with big soap will agree. Hot spots are all that is necessary and actually leads to cleaner and healthier skin. So although Jason is hilarious in this by calling out big soap, which I think is just so freaking hilarious, Jason is 100% wrong about this. I'm not saying that you got to scrub the dermis off of your skin every single day. I'm saying you sweat, you clean. It's that simple, man. Like, I can't, Trevor, I'm sure you're the same way, man. If I have a long day and I'm sweating all day, I'm not going home and going to bed. I got to shower. I got to wash my ass. I got to wash my face. I got to wash everything. And I don't even know how that's a debate. This has been an ongoing thing, too. I've seen from, like, actors, like random actors that have said stuff like, oh, I only take, like, 3 showers a month. What in the living fuck are you all doing with your lives? That is absolute. Look, we like to keep an open mind here. I'm judging the shit out of you if that's how you live your life. Keep your shit clean, literally. I don't know how people live as adults that don't shower at least 5 times a week. How the hell you don't do that? I mean, some of us have in-house jobs where you sit at a desk and you may not sweat much. That's fine. If you don't shower every single day, whatevs. But if you are a person that is active and works and sweats and uses your hands and feet and you have perspiration going on, what the hell, man? Jason Kelce, my dude, I love you to death. Like I said, it's like we're twins in just very different framed bodies. But you're gonna have to do me a solid here, brother, because you really make me look bad here, bro, as your little twin. So do me a solid, Jason. Go wash your ass and hold the tail. Thanks.
Yeah. Wash your face before you wash your ass.
Christ, yeah. Don't do that, yeah. Or, as long as you're washing, I guess.
We are the Hygiene Podcast.
Whew. We're Big Soap. That's who we are.
Soap, yeah.
We're endorsed by Big Soap. It's a conspiracy. I know you guys are probably thinking that, oh, makes sense. Lance got that beard. He must be a part of Big Soap. You caught me. I just admit, you're not really catching me if I admit it. Does that make sense? So that's our soapbox for the day, if you will. Hey, now, this was brought to you by Irish Spring. This has been a fun show. A blast, as we say every single week, and I mean it every single week, especially this week, because we do this to get through the off season. This is something that a lot of shows, and I don't blame them, take the off season off. It's kind of like being a teacher. You don't got a lot of school going on. You might as well just take the time off. We don't like to do that here. We like to continue to have a good time with you guys. We like to build a rapport with you guys so you know where to be every Saturday. We don't want you guys to forget about us, so don't forget about us. In fact, do the opposite. I say it at the top of the show. I say it at the bottom of every single show. Go to youtube.com, hit up the Spoken Podcast, hit subscribe, hit like, hit share, hit notify, hit all them buttons, and get in that chat because we love hearing from you guys. We love to get the feedback from you guys. Be a part of this. Tell your friends about us. We appreciate when you guys do that as well. It's been an awesome, great show. Trevor, you have anything you want to add before you get out of here?
I didn't know if you wanted to talk about your upcoming episode about the Arrowhead Allies.
Thank you for reminding me, because I literally was about to forget that. So, guys, I told you at the show, if we can put the picture up, this is our Arrowhead Allies show. The guy in the middle is really handsome. I don't know who that is, but God, he looks
like
good.
washes his beard.
Looks like he washes his beard and his ass. Arrowhead Allies every Tuesday on Starcade Media. You can find us, actually, if you want to just, like I said, subscribe to our YouTube channel here at Smokin' Podcast. We go live here as well every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we have awesome guests. We have good content. The shows only last about an hour. It's hard to scrunch everything in within an hour, but somehow we try to find a way every single week. The point is, we have a big guest this week. Last week, we had Justin Reed, which was awesome. We had Derek Alexander, who was a guy that Trevor and I grew up watching as Chiefs fans. This week, we have one of my favorite players of all time, left tackle, legendary left tackle, Willie Roaf. He will be on the show with us this upcoming Tuesday. Hope you guys want to join us. Like I said, you guys get in the chat. Sometimes they'll post some questions and comments, whatever you guys have for us as well on the show as we're doing things with the guest. It's going to be at least 30 minutes with Willie. Sometimes they go a little bit longer than that. I've talked to him before on a show. Great guy, very receptive, just a really good dude. I actually have a funny story of meeting Willie Roaf in person about 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, that I'm going to share on the show. So make sure and be there, because if you haven't heard this story, you're going to want to hear it. It's a pretty cool story that I had as a young kid with Willie Roaf. But definitely be there, guys, on Tuesdays. We do this almost pretty much every Tuesday, especially during football season, where we have an episode. But definitely don't miss us this week. We have a great guest. We usually always have great guests there as well. I always have fun with my guys, Shaggy, Shane, Brian, Clinton, Noah. So with that is it that I have for you guys today. We really do appreciate you guys hanging out with us, man. This is a blast. 270 freaking episodes, man. By the time the football season gets here, we'll be flirting with 300. We're so stoked to be where we're at, and we're going to continue to climb this ladder with you guys, and we wouldn't be able to do it without you. So we really do thank you guys for being a part of it. So for Trevor Twidwell, for the great Clay Windler that puts all this together on the back end of things, and at Red Tribe Cinema, shout out. For everybody that's a part of Starcade Media, the umbrella that we have above us, I am Lance Twidwell. Episode 270 of the Spoken Podcast is done, finished, and finito. And until we're back here in 1 week's time for episode 271, we out of this bitch.
Later.
Wash your ass.